welcome to the KinoKast. Welcome back, and we're here with two very special guests, Lowres Wünderbred and Hans. And how are you guys doing? What's going on with you guys? What's up?
Should I come up with like a fake last name too? That sounded kind of shitty. That sounded like I'm like the sidekick that's just like glued next to him.
Yeah,
what's sucking up the nutrients.
Here's what happened. Like maybe a year ago, Hans decided, oh hey, should I have a pseudonym too? Why don't you call me Hans L. L. Hans? And I was like, we have your full name on literally everything that's been released to this point. Now you want to do that?
Yeah.
Great.
It's because I got fired in very suspicious circumstances the last job I had, where they didn't want to tell me why, but I know that my boss was very online type of person.
Oh man!
And they ended up paying me like vacations and like paid me like an extra month of work, and fired me. So I was like, all right, cool. Like I didn't care as long as they paid me something, but it was weird. And then I was like, well, let me Google my full name, and right there, everything we've ever done, it's listed there.
Oh shit! Yeah. I rarely think about the real world repercussions of just being Spurg Online with a one name having Spurg Online.
Well, I mean, that recently, happened to me. Somebody from my hometown found my tweets and took out, a couple of the spiciest of them, I suppose, out of context, and sent them to all of my family members, which caused a little bit of a stir. Yeah, it was really weird. It's somebody that I know personally, but no one will tell me who it is, and so now I'm just kind of paranoid. I was paranoid, but I've just kind of gone back to the usual. It's
do you like your family? Like, I mean, do they have a different idea of who you are as a person than who you
Obviously, the answer
online,
is yes.
I guess, because
I think that's probably the case for.
Because
I mean, I don't know if you've seen his Twitter feed with the gathering of the harem of women and all that. I would assume that doesn't roll over into his family.
No, and I'm not exactly like that in real life. I'm sorry to disappoint.
Oh man, what do you think about his Twitter feed?
No, let's not get into that.
Let's get
We're
into
talking
that.
about movies tonight. We're talking
Man.
we're talking about New Hollywood. That's the subject of tonight. Is New Hollywood? It's the gate crashers, the young blood that came into the studio system and overthrew things until they became the boomers and they got kicked out or whatever. I mean, things fizzled out, but that's kind of the story. It's the rise and the fall, right? It's just like a internet Aj video but about Dennis Hopper and Warren Beatty and I don't know, Bob Raffleson or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So
let's not talk about my Twitter.
Okay, all right. We're gonna get into it, and I think we all agree.
I'm just saying, like, I moved to Hans one name just because I was inspired by McGee. Is that how you pronounce it?
McGee.
Is that
By
McGee?
Wow,
Is that
you old motherfucker, McGee.
I like that though. I like the one name
yeah.
thing. The Hans. Hans it's good. I do like that. So I mean, we're all in agreement. Like, so the '70s, it starts with Easy Rider, and then it ends with Michael Cimino, right? So
Well, you could say it starts with Easy Rider, but I think that there was a lot kind of leading up to that point, and I don't know. Did Midnight Cowboy come out before?
69.
I think that came out a year before. Or was that the same year? That was 69.
Right.
So it's the
Midnight
same year.
Cowboy and Easy Rider are right before the 1970s, but they're kind of the beginning of that era.
Yeah. Yeah. You could maybe say that Bonnie and Clyde was.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
The very beginning. Easy Rider though is when it exploded. Like there were some movies in 67, 68, The Graduate, I think, was another one that feels like it's on the cusp of that something new.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is that when people started talking like regular people, or that happened a couple of years before?
That I,
You know
I
what
think that was kind
Instead
of
sounding like a
that was
like
more
a
the
bad Flintstones
more of the
character.
50s, like late 50s. I think people started to come out of that.
Yeah, it was in the 50s. Like, you had actors like Marlon Brando and James Dean and those types that had that kind of that new like method acting or that more like realist.
They got more mumbly.
Yeah, they did.
Less
it's
theater, right?
Yeah, it's definitely less theater. They got more mumbly, and essentially you can track Hollywood all the way from James Dean to Owen Wilson. When he speaks, you hardly know what he's saying.
Who is a great thespian, by the way, Owen Wilson. One of the best.
What's your name? Your favorite Owen Wilson movie?
The
Go.
Haunting.
Oh, don't put me on the spot. The Haunting.
Rushmore.
I don't even know. I don't even want to.
I mean, he wrote Rushmore, so I'll say Rushmore.
Did he? Oh, he co-wrote it, or did he write it?
Yeah, he co-wrote it, and it's based on his life.
Didn't he co-write Bottle Rocket as well?
Yeah.
Yep,
Right.
and the Royal Tenenbaums.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
he's good. He's
Yeah,
underrated.
I say Starkey and Hutch. Starkey and Hutch is my favorite Owen Wilson movie.
No,
I
you
didn't even
did.
say the name properly.
No, you
Starkey.
still haven't.
God damn it.
You're such a foreigner.
Right the first time.
Yeah. What about you, Lowres?
My favorite of
Little fuckers.
Owen Wilson. Let me think about that.
Yeah.
Hall Pass.
Oh,
You got Drill Bill Taylor. You got Marley
Drill
and
Bit
Me.
Taylor. Drill Bit
got,
Taylor is a classic.
You got You, Me, and Dupree.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I should have
one.
said Marley and Me just because the dog dies at the end.
You got Shanghai Nights. Remember that movie with Jackie
Sure.
Chan? That
I was
great.
just watching Police Story
yeah. I can't
special
believe-
features on the Criterion Channel, which is not.
Hey, look, we're not talking about these highfalutin Criterion Channel movies. We're talking about Drill Bit Taylor.
That's right.
And Shanghai Noon.
Fun fact about Drill Bit Taylor: I'm pretty sure that was John Hughes' last film that he worked on.
Did he write
I think
that?
he might have done
way to
some
go out.
script doctoring on that, or he might have come up with a story. I'm not sure. One of those two.
It says story by John Hughes.
I was an extra in a movie called Father Figures, which starred Owen Wilson. That's how I know.
That sounds like the most
House.
boring fucking milquetoast movie ever.
Well, it was originally called Bastards, and the
Much
studio,
better name.
the studio put the kibosh on that because they're like, it's not gonna, people aren't gonna watch it, but it's like it's an R-rated sort of gross out comedy or one of those sorts of stupid Hangover rip-off type of things. And I think the director of it was the cinematographer of The Hangover. And it was on that set, so they had me as this extra in the scene. Of course, this was back when I was maybe like 19. This is a while ago, but that film just kind of sat on the studio shelf for years. So it
Okay,
didn't.
because I was gonna say it came out in 2017, so it's not that long ago.
Yeah, no, it sat on the shelf for like a few years at least. And that's when they cast me because I'm an Irish American and they needed this Irish wake or whatever, and so it's like I'm standing on the porch. And I look through one of the windows and I see Owen Wilson just staring dead set, just staring at me. And it's really weird. And so I look away and I'm kind of standing there, looking out of the corner of my eye. And he's just and he just won't avert his gaze and he's not even blinking. And I'm thinking to myself, am I in trouble of what the hell is going on? I think what happened is he had done some kind of, I don't want to claim anything, but I don't think he was exactly sober.
Yeah.
And
I was to meet Owen Wilson. Where did he?
Yeah,
touch
he
you?
looked at. He looked at.
I was gonna say he probably thought you had drugs on
He
him.
pushed me.
He was probably looking for heroin.
He was really getting me with those eyes. I felt
He
violated.
pushed me.
I heard about
He pushed me
there
into
was
the bathroom.
he was
Kiss my neck and ask for coke.
I heard he was really into drugs.
Here's what I heard.
Wasn't there something?
I heard that Steve Coogan from Alan Partridge
Yeah.
got him addicted to heroin.
Hell yeah.
On the set of.
That's what I heard.
Hell yeah.
They did some movie together, and I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And that's why Owen Wilson tried to kill himself like 10 years ago. People like to forget about that. I haven't forgotten
I remember
about that. I've never forgotten about that.
Steve Coogan, by the way, very misunderstood by American audiences. I don't think he got the
I like Steve Coogan.
fair share that he should have.
Yeah, I really like.
I think it's
funny.
24-hour Party People.
Oh,
I really
it's a
like
great
that
movie.
lot.
I think he's funnier. I think he's much funnier than Ricky Gervais. But
yeah.
he doesn't get as much attention as Gervais gets in America because of The Office, I guess. But yeah, he's definitely someone that they misused in America when he tried to do that jump. And I mean, I guess
He's got some
it's a
good
good thing
American
that,
roles.
that-
Like Hamlet 2, I thought was a pretty good
Yeah.
comedy.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, I saw that in theaters.
Me too. I was one of 4 people in the theater, and at
Yeah.
least 50% of the theater was gay men. So
Yeah. Oh man.
Okay, but
So,
so you have
who are the other
Hamlet
three?
2, and then you have Marmaduke, the other guys, our idiot brother,
Was that the other
Ruby Sparks.
with the Michael is it Michael or Martin Winterbottom films? Like they did like The Trip.
Oh,
as
those
well
are always great,
together, and
yeah.
then they did like
Those are great. Yeah.
yeah.
The trip to Italy, the trip to Greece.
But I don't-
And those
I-
are pretty much just like non-scripted, like ad lib type of movies.
Do those actually like even play like in American theaters?
yeah, well, they were made
don't
for
know.
America as films.
Yeah, they do.
In the UK, they're TV shows. So after the end of
Okay.
each season, they just cobble it together into a movie, and then I guess release it in theaters in the US and maybe re-release it in the UK.
There was another movie like where it's like he's like making a movie and it's a Tristram Shanley or something like I forgot the name of it. It's really long and it's like based off of like an old book or something. I watched it a long time ago. It was all right. Whatever.
That
Steve
sounds
Coogan?
like a good movie. I think I'll check it out right after this podcast.
It was okay. It was okay. There's
It sounds long. You know, he plays that one guy that did that one thing.
it's
you know,
it's,
sounds
it's
good.
one of those. It's one of those funny.
I love a
Picture
funny
things.
picture.
I like funny
Hamlet
pictures.
It
Too.
sounds like you're talking about Hamlet,
Hamlet
too.
too,
Yeah.
yeah. That sounds like Hamlet too.
I think it's called Tristram Shanley.
Yeah.
Or something.
I think you had a dream,
I
and
don't
he just
care.
popped up in it. You mistook it for a movie.
It's just- yeah, I think it was something. It was probably something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, who hasn't had Steve Coogan in their dreams, right? Right?
I haven't.
mean,
I think Owen Wilson's having
Well,
nightmares of Steve Coogan nowadays.
yeah.
No, I'm sure Owen Wilson is enjoying the fact that his friend brought him back to happiness and being fun and drugs. Because as we've learned from Stephen King, when you lose all your creativity, when you go completely sober and you become a hack,
Oh
maybe
man,
he's just happy that he's back on drugs.
Stephen King. Yeah, he was like he used to like he would just like fucking drink like crazy and then bang coke and like he'd bleed from his nose. He just
And everything we remember from Stephen King was created in this era when he was doing all.
It was all in
right?
the 80s, yeah. And he
Yeah,
forgot
yeah.
writing. I forget which book it was that he
The
completely
Tommy
forgot
Knockers.
writing.
The Tommy Knockers is also. I mean, I haven't read it in a while, but I remember checking it out and being like, "This is awful." And then there's a really bad made-for-TV movie with Jimmy Smits.
There's this one.
What's
there's this one.
What's the Trump one?
There's
He wrote-
Lowres?
Did he write a?
Oh.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
There's not a Trump one, but there's one about he got like very social justice-y in the last book, where it's like it's a lesbian couple who's misunderstood in a bigoted town, and it just plays to all the same tropes that you would expect. It feels like the opening of Joss Whedon's Justice League, where you see like a Nazi kicking over a Muslim family's fruit stand in New York City, and it's got that vibe about it. It feels very like we got to do something. We got to take the initiative to right the wrongs and help get America straight.
directed by Ava DuVernay.
I think there's a problem with taking someone like him seriously to begin with. Like what? I mean, isn't Stephen King throughout his whole career he's just been seen as kind of a hack, if I understand.
Yeah.
Like, he's literally the PewDiePie of the literary world.
Yeah,
he just
he's
makes
not...
whatever all the time.
I think we're breaking Lowres' heart right now.
Oh well, Lowres like he constantly defends like Zack Snyder. So
I think Zack Snyder's great. But here's the thing.
I don't know where he stands on anything.
The Army of the Dead movie, I'm not a fan of. I don't like that film. But that's that's completely separate. This is probably my least favorite Zack Snyder movie. I don't even know what there is to defend, quote unquote. I think The People Who've Spoken is the most popular film of all time. Okie.
Yep.
I love how he's just.
I prefer.
Said it like
I prefer Zack Snyder to Stephen King. To
but
be
hey,
honest.
here's a question.
Here's
a question. Who would you consider the Zack Snyder of the new Hollywood era? How about that, of the 1970s?
Oh.
Michael Cimino.
That you know what? That's actually probably accurate.
Yeah, because he's so gaudy, and it's all about like, let's just put as many people, as many like, just epic things in this frame. You know, like you're watching. Both The Deer Hunter and Heaven's Gate. It's like, yeah, let's just watch these people party and have like 1,000 people on screen for 2 hours.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Is like, I don't think that Michael Cimino has ever made. Like, he's okay. So, excuse me. I don't think that Zack Snyder has ever made, like legitimately. Good
That's
movie
insane.
Michael
That's
Cimino
the most egregious thing I've ever heard.
He's made the Deer Hunter. So I don't know what to. I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, and oh gosh, fuck. What? I lost my train of thought. Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder made 300. Did Michael Cimino ever make 300?
Lowres, what do you think is?
What are we comparing here?
What do you think is Zack Snyder's Deer Hunter?
His Deer Hunter.
Yeah.
Probably Watchmen.
I think. Oh, okay. Well, Watchmen's not bad to be honest, but I don't think. I really like the graphic novel a lot.
And what would you say is his Heaven's Gate?
Is probably Justice League.
Yeah. Although didn't Justice League do fairly well?
It's incredibly difficult to gauge what the truth is because they don't ever release any of the real statistics as far as the streaming platforms go.
Yeah.
They tried to claim that it was moderately popular. I find that very difficult to believe. They said that Kong vs. Godzilla was a more popular film. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so, though. And also whatever came after that Angelina Jolie movie. Sorry, Mortal Kombat.
That could...
No, Morgan Freeman. No, the Denzel.
No, that was all. Right? That was long before. I'm pretty
before?
sure they're trying to claim that Mortal Kombat is the most watched movie on their platform.
Oof.
Did anybody watch? Anybody here watch Mortal Kombat?
If that's true, I am just gonna. I was joking earlier on Twitter about like just moving into a cabin in the woods for the rest of my life. But if Mortal Kombat was the most watched movie on HBO Max, I'm fucking doing it tomorrow. I'm leaving. I'm checking out.
What? Okay, you didn't watch Mortal Kombat?
No, I thought that I don't know. I haven't gotten to it, but I thought it was like the.
Why are you acting like he's the weird one for not watching it?
I kind of. Here's the thing, though. I kind of wanted to watch it because I did like the previous Mortal Kombat.
The first one.
Yeah,
the first one.
Anytime that came on TV, I'd actually sit and watch that shit.
This new Mortal Kombat doesn't even have Johnny Cage.
It does not.
It doesn't.
No.
Cole Young, the made-up character for the film.
Why doesn't it have Johnny Cage?
He's just not identifiable enough, to the average viewer. You need Cole Young.
What?
He was an orphan from Chicago who becomes an MMA fighter. That's your lead.
Yeah, he kind of...
This is okay. So this is like the same shit as like in the 2014 Godzilla movie, where everyone's thinking, yeah, Bryan Cranston's gonna be the main character and it's gonna be awesome. and then
Yep.
he dies in 10 minutes, and it's some like generic like 20-something white
The
soldier
most
dude or
boring
whatever. and
lead
you're just
actor
like,
you could ever cast in a movie.
It's
I know,
Kick-Ass.
but he's good in Kick-Ass. If you say Kick-Ass, then that's kind of misleading because that's an engaging, entertaining character.
What's his name? Aaron
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Taylor
yes.
Johnson, right? It's married to a
Married to a
grandmother.
55-year-old woman.
Oh, he is. Oh, yeah, he's married to
What?
like a movie producer.
She
lady,
directed
something
one of
like
the
that.
50 Shades of Grey movies.
Oh, what is that about? That's like
wow,
that
I've
fucking.
lost
The,
all respect for him.
what is like? It's like that fucking the
You
president of France or whatever, like Macron.
No,
he's like married.
Macron.
He's married to his like this old
Yeah.
fucking high school teacher, and she just like
Yeah,
she
he
looks
is.
like this decrepit old lady, and it's like
Well, he did the thing that you think it's cool when you're like 14.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, I want to fucking date someone that's older than me so she can take care of me because I'm a baby. But
Mommy,
he's like
mommy.
20. He's like 27 and she's like 65. So he's like, dude, that's gross.
Yeah, her,
that is
her kids are like
it's-
5
yeah, it's-
years younger than him.
Yeah.
That is literally it is gross to me. I don't know. I mean, there's probably some
So-
people who are listening right now who only exclusively watch MILF porn, like the protagonist in Cock 2019, who only.
So,
watch-
anyways, guys, I'm just gonna segue this
Wow.
right here. One of my favorite new Hollywood movies is a film by Hal Ashby called Harold and Maude.
Well, perfect transition.
Oh,
There you
man.
go.
I do like. I love that movie.
No, actually, I mean, Hal Ashby was great. You know, I guess maybe what we can do just to kind of start things off is, Lowres, you just made a video on the boomers that what was it called? The boomers that destroyed Hollywood, or something like that.
Yeah,
What was
no,
the title?
that was the title. Destroyed in this context was used in a positive context because it did usher in the new Hollywood era where you find the filmmakers like Dennis Hopper and Scorsese and Francis Ford Coppola, all these names that are iconic now. I mean, Hal Ashby's not really like a new Hollywood guy, but he is one of the iconic 1970s directors, I would say, definitely.
Yeah, and there's a weird sort of, it's kind of like with the French New Wave, you know, because the French New Wave happened, right? And there were all these French New Wave directors. You had Agnes Varda, Jean-Luc Godard, Francois Truffaut, Jacques Demy, Romer. You had like these people, but then you also had a bunch of other French directors that weren't French New Wave, but often get lumped with them, like Bresson and Melville and you know, several others, because they were still
Right.
making movies and they were very good movies at the same time, but they weren't French New Wave. And that happens in the 70s with New Hollywood. You know, Sidney Lumet is not a New Hollywood director, but he made movies that are considered New Hollywood classics like Dog Day Afternoon, you know, Serpico Network, these films. I know when people say New Hollywood, a lot of people talk about Dog Day Afternoon. It's a great 70s movie, but it's like, it's not New Hollywood. I mean, because Sidney Lumet made 12 Angry Men back in the 50s. Yeah, and there was plenty of that happening.
So,
but I would...
Are we?
No, you go.
Are we mostly like considering like New Hollywood to be like what is it called, like the Brat Pack, or?
Well,
just,
what
like,
I mean,
people
what
who just, like, started
New
making-
Hollywood is kind of considered. I mean, it's really just like a lot of Italian guys. It's Scorsese, it's Coppola. I mean, Spielberg is in there. George Lucas. I mean, who am I missing here? Robert Altman.
Robert Altman.
Yep.
Yeah. John Cassavetes started in the 50s.
Cassavetes was in the
Yeah.
50s. He had a couple of movies come out in the 60s. I think he's most known for his 70s work, though. He's probably I don't know if you would
Yeah.
really consider him a 70s filmmaker, but if indeed he was considered that, he'd probably be my favorite of the 70s filmmakers.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Cassavetes. You know, and his 70s stuff is pretty next level with like A Woman Under the Influence, Love Streams, Killing of a Chinese Bookie. I mean, it was just hit after hit. I mean, but so was, you know, Coppola was at that time too. You think about in one decade, he came out with The Godfathers Part 1 and 2, The Conversation, and Apocalypse Now.
Coppola was a monster at that time. Like he was just fucking amazing.
Yeah.
and then he made One from the Heart, and everything just.
Was that his sorry, was that his musical that he wound up doing? Oh Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was like an old Hollywood style musical, and it totally flopped. Well, and so with Apocalypse Now, he didn't think it was going to make any money, and gosh, it's been a while since I've read up on this, but he didn't think it was going to make any money. He essentially bet against it, and he got roped into a deal to make these other movies and things like that, and he got into so much debt. Because I don't know, there was some whole like weird thing going on, but yeah, One from the Heart, he got into tons of debt. That's why he just like cranked out films in the 80s to work his way out of like this massive hole that he made for himself. I think Apocalypse Now kind of just wrecked him.
Well, I know this isn't, so this is not 70s, but one of the first films that me and Kino actually bonded over was Rumblefish.
Yeah.
I really liked those S.E. Hinton novels when I was a kid, and just like, yeah. So like that Rumblefish movie, I always thought was fucking good.
Rumblefish was great. But he was making a bunch of stuff in the 80s. Rumblefish was definitely better than The Outsiders.
The Outsiders isn't like the movie sucks.
Coppola's career, from like the early mid '80s onward, is so spotty. Where it kind of feels like for every 3 to 4 not so good movies he makes maybe one great one. I feel like Rumblefish is definitely in that category of better films. And then I think the last good movie he made was Tetro, with Vincent Gallo, and even that one has its flaws. You can kind of see, there's always this problem when you have an elder filmmaker who is drawn into the new medium and using like digital and editing on computers, and they start to think things are cool that really aren't cool. Like we would see it and be like, that's very hacky, that feels very like 2010. And he does succumb to this in Tetro by using, maybe he uses like really cheap green screen or iPhone video. He does something along those lines, and it just doesn't fit in with the rest of the movie.
What you mean? You mean something like The Devil and Father Amar?
Amorth. I don't.
Creepy audio.
This is William Friedkin's last movie. It's a documentary. It's only about an hour long. It's called The Devil and Father Amorth, and he decides to like revisit the exorcist topic, and he goes to the Vatican and he documents an exorcism, and he shows the footage of it, and he alters the possessed girl's voice with like a voice filter. So it does not read well, and he also he closes out the movie by just explaining what happens and giving like a sound effects. He's like, "Oh, the church doors swung open, and she started saying my dead mother's name, and her head was spinning around." And she's like, "Okay, time for a nap, Mr. Friedkin. Time for bed."
How old is William Friedkin?
He's in his 80s.
Like
70.
fuck.
I think he's 85.
Right?
Yeah, he's. Yeah, I was gonna say he's not in the 70s anymore.
So this movie came out in I think 2016 or 2017. So I think he was at least 80 years old.
That's crazy.
Would you
17,
consider?
yeah. 82.
No, I guess Clint Eastwood wouldn't be considered new Hollywood, even though he started making movies in the early 70s.
What was Play Misty for me? When was that made?
I think that was 1970, right?
I have no idea.
Now, one of the directors that I have on my list that I haven't heard you guys mention, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Robert Klaus. He did Enter the Dragon, Black Belt Jones.
Oh man, yeah.
Ultimate Warrior with Yul Brynner, where he's just shirtless, bald, and out of shape, but he beats everyone up.
What?
And then Game of Death, which it's not great, but it's like the last time we saw Bruce Lee on film.
I really like Game of Death.
Cool, I guess. Yeah.
I really like that movie. Like I used to watch that when I was a kid, like over and over and over again. I didn't even realize that they had to repurpose his scenes and stuff. Like it's janky because of that. because he died while he was making it. But
Yeah.
I just really liked that movie, and I think that it's hard to talk about the 70s without bringing up exploitation movies, like kung fu movies, blaxploitation movies, and just like junk, stuff that would play at like midnight theaters.
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense then that like in Taxi Driver, he's going to these porn theaters and watching this shit. And I think that with New Hollywood, it was a mix of the new blood that was in Hollywood. They had a mix of inspirations. They were film students. A lot of them were. They were film students and they were cinephiles, and at that point there had been decades of film history made. Because you think about like people getting into film like in the golden age. It's like, what are they really basing their movies off of? Silent movies. It's like, man, talkies, which is a whole different kind of filmmaking and a whole different kind of movie than silent films. It's like, yeah, if you got into it in 1940, it's like, yeah, this has only been around for a decade. Just a little bit over a decade. It's a new thing. But by the time that the 70s came around, the late 60s, early 70s, I think film was more kind of set in, and you could then have a lot of influences, and you also saw in the 40s, 50s, and 60s all these new waves of directors. You had like the Italian neorealism, you had the French New Wave, the Czechoslovak New Wave, the New British Cinema or British New Wave or whatever that was called. I mean, and you see people too, like even from these other new waves coming to America and making films in the States. I mean, that happened with John Schlesinger with Midnight Cowboy, and that happened with Milos Forman and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Louis Malle. A lot of these other European directors came, and a lot of the Americans were very influenced by these new European movements, and you can see how it, they put it into an American context. And I think that's also important when talking about New Hollywood, that it was sort of this halfway point between what was going on in Hollywood and then what was going on in the rest of the world. It was definitely this kind of young, rebellious, intellectual, take on cinema.
It was funny.
I was just going to ask, what is your opinion on Louis Malle?
With his movies, like I love Elevator to the Gallows, and I really liked I really liked My Dinner with Andre, but there is a kind of a weird spot with Louis Malle, and that is that's Pretty Baby.
Oh, right, that's the Brooke Shields child pornography movie.
Yeah. Susan Sarandon, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely like my big hang up with Louis Malle. I generally liked his film. I generally like his movies. But yeah, Pretty Baby. I haven't watched it. It's I don't know. It was like the Cuties of the 1970s, or was that 1980s? Yeah. I don't know, but it was I don't know.
It was just not seen as it was seen as like normal, I guess. Not like anything that would cause any type of outrage at the time. 78.
Yeah, well, Brooke Shields plays as a child prostitute.
12.
Well, I mean, like even 12. In fucking Taxi Driver, Jodie Foster is like she's a 13-year-old prostitute.
I know, but you don't see her doing anything in Taxi Driver.
Oh, but in the, so
I haven't seen Pretty Baby. I'm not even that familiar with the controversy, to be honest with you, but I'm fairly certain. Like 12-year-old Brooke Shields is naked or doing something in the movie that should be illegal.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. That's crazy. All right.
Yeah, that was the big I haven't seen it, but yeah, I know that she does sexual stuff in it. Whether or not, like, how much you see, again, I don't really know. I don't care to find out, but yeah, that's definitely my big hang-up with Louis Malle, is that film.
Yeah, I'm a very big fan of My Dinner with Andre. That's probably one of my top 30 favorite films, I would say.
I've seen it once. I haven't. Yeah, I gotta rewatch
I
it.
really like it. My Dinner with Andre is great, and they filmed that at a like an abandoned hotel in Virginia.
Now, I've never seen it. I'm familiar with the concept that it's just two Jewish men talking. Right?
Yeah.
But what do they
Yeah.
what do they
It's
talk
very
about?
pivotal that they had
We'll
to
see.
be
Enlightenment.
Jewish.
Watch the
for
movie.
hours.
Watch the movie, and you'll find out.
He's
Watch the movie, and you'll find out. That's what the movie's about. Is what
Yeah.
they talk about.
when I was
If
in,
I
when
was
I
to
was
tell
in,
you-
when I was in high school, that was one of my favorite teachers' like favorite movies. So like I watched it, but like from what I remember, it was like they meet and then Andre starts talking about his enlightenment.
And that's it for
If I'm
95
remembering-
minutes straight. It's literally that. It's if you have low tolerance for that and you don't have the patience for it, it's impossible to watch. But if you can penetrate that initial inaccessibility, I think it's a fairly rewarding feature experience.
I was like
Yeah.
really obsessed for a while when I was trying to like write scripts and stuff about trying to figure out how to make like a really low budget film. So like I just started watching a whole bunch of like things that they're done in like what's it called, like a one room thing or whatever. And yeah, that was just one of those where I was like, oh yeah, that fucking works. Like you can create a lot of drama just based off like just two people talking in one room.
So is it just like going to like a cafe in Brooklyn and just listening to conversations
It's
that
like-
a couple of
it's-
Jews are having?
It's like that. I mean, it is like that, but it is it's still captivating.
Well, yeah, and the genius in it really is with Andre Gregory, who's just a really great orator and a great storyteller, and Louis Malle just lets you sit there with him and listen. He doesn't really cut away. I mean, if he cuts away, it's to Wallace Shawn's reaction or questions or something like that. But the fact that he's like, yeah, just sit here and just look at Andre Gregory eat and tell you the story in real time, and I'm not gonna hold your hand with anything, but I'm gonna allow you to enjoy just how great a speaker he is. And that's what the movie is.
So-
I mean, I like it.
So speaking of Louis and Jewish people talking, what do you guys think of Horace and Pete?
A big 70s hit, Horace and Pete. I haven't watched it since it was put online. So I don't know.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Wait, you just
Oh no, I did see it. I saw the first episode of this. Yeah, so long ago. I was like, what the fuck is Horace and Pete? Yeah, this is the Louis.
Louis C.K.
Yeah, Louis
the
C.K.
play.
and he's
Well,
like in
play-ish. Yeah.
yeah.
It's like a bar.
Yeah, I actually I remember watching
Because
the first
it-
episode and thinking it was all right, but
Because I mean, I know it's not directly related to My Dinner with Andre, but it's kind of similar,
it's
right?
nothing
We
at
just
all
have
like My Dinner
people
with
have a-
Andre in the slightest.
having. We just. I've never
There's
seen
the
My Dinner with
only-
Andre.
the
I'm just
only
thinking, like,
similarity
people having conversation in a
It's
restaurant.
people talking and consuming, and that's it.
you know what Horace and Pete remind me. It was kind of like a cross between like My Dinner with Andre and what is that? Cheers. It's like it's kind of like
Yeah.
that. That's that. I did get that. There was a very like like a stage theatrical vibe to it. And I did like that first episode. I don't know why I never really got into it, but
I
did
think the
like
way
first
that was
episode.
shot turned off a lot of people. And I'll tell you what, Lucky Louie kind of has a similar visual look to it, where
Lucky Louie with Jim Norton.
Jim Norton is great acting.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do with his hands.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been meaning to rewatch Horace and Pete. Just because for that reason, because nobody remembers it, and I don't even think I finished it.
Yeah, it's strange because I liked the first episode and I was like but I never got into it. I should
I've never even heard of it.
I was I guess it was during the height of Louis C.K.'s rise and before the fall with the masturbating in front of women or whatever he did. That didn't really seem that bad, to be honest.
And speaking of that incident, to speak of a movie with an incident that was similar, we can talk about Hal Ashby's Being There, 1979.
Oh, yeah, I love that. That's like one of my favorite movies of all time.
No, same here. In which case, who's the lady that plays this as Chauncey's love interest? But she's in the bed and she wants to have sex, and he's just watching the TV, and he says, "I like to watch."
He has no idea what's going on. Yeah,
and so she thinks.
I thought you were gonna say. I thought you were gonna say Last Tango in Paris. Someone did something naughty that they shouldn't have.
Oh
no,
man!
But see, that's not New Hollywood though. I'm trying to keep us on topic here.
Oh, sorry.
Who in New Hollywood?
I don't even
loved
like that movie that
masturbating?
much. Wait, who? Say that again?
Yeah.
All of them.
You know, maybe I should make a video on Last Tango in Paris, and it's just me talking to the camera while like just stroking a thing of butter, just getting butter all over my finger.
Peter Sellers is great. He talked about like a comic actor. Now he's appreciated, I think, by older film connoisseurs, but he's not someone who I think is often talked about outside of maybe Dr. Strangelove these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was also great in Lolita.
Yeah, he's definitely great in Lolita. And
his Pink Panther is underrated, especially when you compare it to what Steve Martin did 30 years later.
That's for sure. Yeah, his Pink Panther movies were great. And I mean, Being There, didn't he died not long after Being There.
I don't think he made it to the 1980s.
He died in 1980.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty kind of like young. Yeah, I really love Being There. Just like the random circumstances that gets this guy to a level where by the way, anybody who's listening to this, spoilers, that he is considered to be president while he's also clearly retarded or autistic or something. It's just so fucking funny to me.
Yeah,
it's such a strange movie. And
you mean simple-minded?
Yeah. He's simple-minded. Yeah, exactly. You are right. He is simple-minded. I don't want to call him like straight up retarded, because there has to be some sort of intelligence for him to be in that position.
You think about it, Being There is like the much better version of Forrest Gump, in the sense that it's about like this simple-minded guy that has like his little isms that, like Forrest Gump says, life is like a box of chocolate. But then in Being There, he's like just talking about gardening all the time, because that's all he knows. It's like how to garden. He's Chauncey Gardner, and everyone just interprets everything that he's saying as like allegory and metaphor, and as being super deep, and he's not being deep. That's the thing, is everyone's just projecting what they want to feel onto him. What were you saying, Oki?
These stupid rich people who are like listening to him, like, oh wow, he's so zen. Oh wow, he's like that's like very oriental. Like, they're just so fucking stupid, and it's just I don't know, it's amazing. I just love it. And then even at the end, I know some people like they'll give the movie shit because like, oh, he walks on water at the end, but I love that. I love like just like the the Jesus parallels to it, and just like the whole simplicity of that character, and it's just a fucking like. It's just such a.
I kind of wanted to get you guys' opinions on another Hal Ashby film I just kind of watched recently, which is Shampoo. Have you guys watched Shampoo?
Oh yeah. Long time ago.
That movie is literally me. I am literally Warren Beatty, just going from woman to woman. Actually, Shampoo. Now, if we're gonna say that. That Being There is the better version of Forrest Gump, shampoo is the better version of "You Don't Mess with the Zohan."
I'll have to take your word for it.
I don't know if you know that Adam Sandler
Dude,
movie.
I actually think that I do like that Adam Sandler movie. I haven't watched it since I was a kid, but I remember like thinking it was so fucking funny.
I checked out on
Well, I mean, it's
Sandler films around Click. I think Click was the last one. I was like, oh, cool, an Adam Sandler movie.
You got to watch Hubie Halloween.
I did watch.
I haven't even
Halloween.
heard of that.
I was part of that demographic that was like, oh yeah, Uncut Gems was great. Adam Sandler, yeah, he was great. And then I watched Hubie Halloween, and I just I think I frustrated myself during it. I don't know. But
That movie is underrated. Hubie Halloween is an underrated gem.
Well, let me ask you, Lowres, did you notice the parallels between Bad Lieutenant and Uncut Gems?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, that's something I don't know. For some reason, that really bothered me.
What did you see that
Harvey Keitel
overlapped?
Well, the whole gambling aspect of it, and just like constantly putting himself in more and more of a hole, and then especially it ending with the main character being shot because of the gambling addiction. And then I looked it up, and I heard that like the Safdies, like they wrote it after watching it and being really inspired by it.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I that completely went over my head. I didn't draw that connection, but it is very obvious that they're they're fans of Abel Ferrara. He plays a robber in Daddy Longlegs. He just randomly pops up in that film with a stocking over his face and holds up one of the characters.
As Abel Ferrara should be, because he has
he's
ugly
very
face.
just he
Dude,
looks
he
like,
looks like
Danny DeVito's Penguin,
a monster
from Batman Returns if he was skinny.
Yeah, and he looked bad even back in the 70s, because when you see him, when I saw him in The Driller Killer when he was, a young stud, and his character supposedly has, he's living with these two women, and I don't know, having sex or whatever, I'm like, there's no way this dude is pulling. Come on.
I think that's the first time anyone's described him as a young stud.
Well, I'm saying back in his young stud days, he was
I've
ugly.
watched the man
he wasn't a young
have
stud.
sex. I have a video coming out next week on The 9 Lives of a Wet Pussy, which he directed under the name Jimmy Lane or Jimmy Boyle, and he performs in it. And the tidbit he gave away was that he's not even supposed to be the one having sex with his girlfriend in one scene. He's supposed to be letting some actor do his girl while he's filming, but then he had to substitute in because the dude had anxiety about being on camera. He couldn't get it up. And that's Abel Ferrara's humble beginnings, is cuckolding himself on videotape for $1.
Holy shit! I didn't know that.
Well, you would think that being successful in Hollywood when you have more than $3,000, you would fix your orangutan teeth, but it seems like he still has shitty orangutan teeth, even though he's been successful for a while. So I don't understand that at all.
I don't know how successful he is. How successful can he
He's
get? Making movies
successful enough,
Miss 45 and shit. What the fuck?
Successful enough to get good teeth.
He could.
I don't think
it's a concern. He has a very attractive young 28-year-old wife, by the way, and he lives in Italy, and he makes movies with Willem Dafoe, and Willem Dafoe.
Oh, is that the one?
Yeah,
Willem Dafoe
so things never change. So
yeah.
Willem Dafoe's grabbing his wife's breasts on film, kissing her, giving her the tongue. This is the kind of thing he really likes. He's the original Kevin Smith in a way.
Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah,
So he's the
Tommaso,
total
right?
cuck.
But like an alpha one.
Oh,
my
What,
gosh.
the Sigma
He's
cuck?
Yeah, he's like, well, is that alpha?
There's no such thing as a Sigma cuck.
Yeah, he's
Because see, okay, I just want to say this, right? That there's no such thing as a Sigma cuck, and somebody might point to Patrick Bateman, in fact, being cucked because his girlfriend was having an affair with Timothy Price. However, Bateman was also pulling on the side, so it wasn't like a cuckolding situation. That was a open relationship, right? So the sigmas, sigmas and alphas, I think it's a total beta move, especially to film. I don't know, like, I just try to put myself in that situation, like saying, yeah, let me make a movie where I have my girlfriend or my wife being like banged by some other dude, and I'm watching it and editing it. Like, I'm living with it, and then I'm going to put it up on a big screen and tell the world, come watch this. I don't know. That's just...
Well, you wrote it. You wrote it first.
Yeah.
It starts.
Well, yeah, you write it. Yeah, you sit down, you write it, you figure it all out, and you're writing, and you're sending it to your friends, and you're like, hey, do you like my writing? And, you know, they read it.
Hey!
Go, yeah.
Hey, do you think it's a good idea to have Willem Dafoe fuck my wife in my last 5 movies? Yes.
Oh no.
They're best friends too. They've made films with one another like every year for the past 5 years. They live next to each other in Italy. Willem works for free, and that's the kind of thing he's writing for him.
They both have fucked up faces, by the way.
He
Wouldn't you work for free if your role was... Okay, first of all, you're a millionaire that's made so many movies and it's known worldwide, like Willem Dafoe. And then your friend that's also 60-something like you is like, listen, I have this hot 25-year-old wife. I'm just going to write movies where you fuck her. Is that okay? Why wouldn't you just... Sure. Yeah, no money? Fine,
Wait,
whatever.
What
do I have to lose? Yeah.
I have another theory. So this is my other theory here, right? This theory is that Abel Ferrara's movies have pretty low budgets, but the way he can afford Willem Dafoe is by writing in these sex scenes with his wife.
There you go.
Yeah. He gets him for free if there's something
the ultimate,
for him.
The ultimate cuck. You're paying with your wife fake vagina, I guess, because
Yeah,
he's
your
not
wife
really
is the
fucking
budget.
them, but you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would I don't know, man. Like, that would still fuck me up mentally,
Dude.
Like, even if it was fake.
I'm still trying to
constantly
process
forgot- what is
the
that?
idea that it doesn't count as a cuck if you're also like fucking somebody as well. It does. Does it nullify it? Does it go 1-to-1, or
No.
I don't know.
No.
Well,
No, because you're still sitting there
well,
crying, right? You're still in the corner touching your soft penis that won't get hard, even though your wife is getting railed by this gigantic penis.
I'm talking in the case of like Patrick
Right? Yes.
Bateman,
That's
right?
that's how I'm thinking about it.
He doesn't
Not-
care.
He wouldn't tolerate that.
He doesn't care at all about. He doesn't care at all about his fiance.
Yeah,
and
he's
he doesn't
disgusted
even
by her.
like her. He doesn't even like her, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna go like and bang all these whores on the side. Oh, you're having this affair? Well, yeah, he ends it without even like thinking about it. So I wouldn't consider that cucking, because it was just sort of like, yeah, they were both just being,
Yeah.
What about the neo-Nazi and cuck 2019? what do you
Look, we already did like a 2.5 hour long KinoKast
I'm
talking
just
about
wondering,
2019.
was he a cuck? Was he a cuck?
Yeah, but he's not a Sigma male. That dude's still like that guy's a beta virgin.
To be fair,
No,
Reese Witherspoon
not the main
pretty-
character.
she's-
Sorry, not the main character. I mean the guy with the 88 tattoo, like the fucking like the guy who's married to the.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a cuck.
He's a
filming
cuck.
it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but he doesn't care.
and that's
it
why
seems
why
like.
at the end he says, "Who's the cuck now?"
All right, I agree.
Hell
You know,
yeah, I
it
love a
makes
good
sense, right?
end line to a movie that sounds cool. Who's the cuck now?
Actually, the end line of the movie was he just decided not to be racist, I guess, and then got shot by the cops.
Oh,
So it's very American History
God.
X, but
I just read the.
if you combined Edward Furlong with Edward Norton.
You should watch Cuck
Edward
2019.
Furlong.
Yeah.
I'm actually
Yeah, I just read the log line and woof. When a frustrated loner gains popularity as an alt-right vlogger, the online echo chamber turns his fears into a deadly
Wow.
rage.
Yeah.
well, and that's not all
That's
of
not-
it.
it's
He's also
barely-
acting in.
Yeah. No, go
That's
on.
barely it, because he's doing his like his alt-right vlogging, but he's also an actor in cuck porn.
Yeah, he gets jizzed on, like he gets jizzed on the face
Oh.
by a guy.
What's the commentary there? What are they trying to say with that movie?
Who's the cuck now?
Who's the cuck now?
What's the message?
So Hans, I have a question for you. I want to know if you've seen a particular movie. It's in my top 5 movies of all time. It's called Salò, or the 120 Days of Sodom.
Good question.
No, I've seen it. It's corny. It's one of those movies where it's just like a Serbian film that's just like, well, this is to shock you, and it's like, well, cool. I watched it, fast forwarded through a lot of it, just not because I was grossed out, but mostly because I was like, cool, like, okay, they're doing this, fine.
Wow,
Sounds like
you should watch my video on
you
it.
were too overwhelmed by the fecal matter that was in the film, Hans.
Yeah, it's like my erection. I didn't understand my erection, so I just fast forwarded. No, it's like, I don't know. It's like Cannibal Holocaust, right? The first time you watch that, you're like, oh, holy shit, this is... Oh my god, they ate a monkey's skull?
Let's turn this into a blood
That's
sports
crazy.
stream.
Yes, you guys
I
gotta
would
fight.
definitely strongly disagree. I would strongly disagree with that assessment. I don't even think that the shocks
Really?
are that... Yeah, I don't even think that the shocks are that bad, but the film is very...
Which one?
And Salò.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even think that the shocks are really that much. I think, especially compared to modern films, it's really not that bad. But it's very
Well,
rooted...
I saw it, what, like 10 years ago when it was like shocking, you know, when it came out and was like, watch this movie or whatever. Well, it didn't come out 10 years ago, but you know, when it got like that online presence of like, this is the fucked up movie of this time or whatever, that's when I saw it. I haven't seen it in a long time, so maybe
I would say
I just didn't.
Yeah, I would say watch.
Yeah.
So I was a theology student in college, and it plays off of a lot of 20th and 19th century philosophy and theology, also ideas about ritual, and it also really heavily plays into Dante's Inferno, and it actually has quite a lot to say. And so I made a video on it, really just because there is this misconception on the internet that it's a film that's just a film that's meant to shock. And everyone on YouTube, when you go on YouTube and look it up, everyone's just talking about how it has poo-poo in it and whatever, and like, oh, they eat shit. Well, and it's like, but the thing is that if you look at the director of it, I mean, talking about, you know, Abel Ferrara, I mean, obviously Abel Ferrara loves the director of it because it made a movie about the director, Pasolini.
Right.
Pasolini was an intellectual and a poet, and all of his films are very layered and with, you know, so many different elements and so many different themes and ideas. Like if you see another of his films, like Teorema, it's a lot like Salò in the sense that it's not nearly as in fact it's pretty PG, Teorema is, but you can kind of get a sense of how Pasolini infuses these sort of really opaque, sometimes inaccessible like his films can be fairly inaccessible. Not all of them are. The Trilogy of Life is very accessible, but you know, some of his mid-60s films definitely were. And that's why in Salò, at the beginning of it, it actually opens up with a bibliography, because he kind of like, there is an understanding that you have to like, to understand the a lot of the references, what's going down in here, you need to be acquainted with the works. Like a very small thing that I bring up to people is how they sort of casually mention Evola. Like one of the characters is named Evola, and I don't know if you know who Evola is.
No.
Evola was a prominent early 20th century fascist philosopher, and you know, so and there's a lot more into it. Salò being the Republic of Salò being the capital of being the capital of the Republic of Salò, the German puppet state. and then equating that to Dante's Inferno, imbuing it with the Marquis de Sade, and kind of taking this satire from the 1700s, but putting it into fascist Italy. There's a lot at play there that people just... It's lost. It's lost in the conversation.
Yeah, because the way I was introduced to this movie was like that. It was like, this is just a shocking movie that is going to shock you and it's going to leave you with whatever, sequels or whatever the fuck. So I didn't really take it seriously. I guess that's where my mistake was, I guess, because I didn't... all I thought I was watching was something like kind of a Holocaust where it's just like, well, this is just made to create outrage and shock, so I just like fast
right. You were looking at it through a horror movie
it's
lens
not really doing
as opposed
anything
to
for
a
me,
Pasolini lens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were like watching and you're just like, oh, well, it's not shocking, so who cares? Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, if they're any shit, great.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it around the exact same time. Like, I think it was same with me 10 years ago. I watched that and Caligula. I was like, okay, well, it's not. Neither of them are that shocking.
The difference between Salò and Caligula is that Salò was made by a poet and an artist, and Caligula was directed by porn directors.
Yeah.
Which it was. Caligula was, yeah. I mean, they were softcore porn directors.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I barely remember either of them, to be honest. Like, so, but
not related at all.
One shocking
to Caligula. I wanted to gauge your opinion on something, Kino, but I guess you could, consider, sex a connection between these guys. Would you consider Roman Polanski a member of New Hollywood?
No, because he made movies in the 60s,
because he made a bunch of Polish movies before.
Mm.
He made like Repulsion and Knife in the Water and.
Do you guys like Repulsion?
I haven't seen Repulsion in like 15 years, so I couldn't give you a decent opinion of it.
I didn't like it that much. I really like Rosemary's Baby. It's like one of my favorites, but I didn't like Repulsion that much. I thought it was kind of dull.
I only ask because in my head,
consider...
I consider Chinatown part of that New Hollywood era. Maybe just because Jack Nicholson was on the set.
Oh, yeah.
I read there was a really great book that came out recently that detailed the making of that. And it also involved like the BBS crew, like Bob Rafelson and, what's his name? Not Robert Mitchum, but he looks almost exactly like Robert Mitchum. He's a movie producer. They did a movie on him called The Kid Stays in the Pictures. Anyone know who I'm talking about?
No.
God damn it.
I know the face because I watched that documentary on BBS.
Robert Evans, that's right. Yeah. So, I guess not. If we abide by the logic of you have to, I guess, start in the 1970s or have your first big hit in the 70s, probably not.
Well, I would say like late 60s.
Sure.
But late 60s in terms of like, also the other thing about New Hollywood is it's like, you start in the late 60s and you're American. Because, with a lot of these directors, I mean, that's why I was bringing up like Louis Malle and John Schlesinger and Milos Forman, that, Milos Forman made a bunch of movies in Czechoslovakia before he came to the States, and started making movies here. And then John Schlesinger started in England and then came to the States. And Roman Polanski started in Poland.
Right.
So,
well, another, I guess maybe New Hollywood connection would be the screenwriter Robert Towne, who did Shampoo.
Oh,
and I believe he did.
Oh, yeah.
He might have worked on The Godfather.
He did Chinatown.
Yes.
As well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, he's good.
Very talented guy.
Also, like Paul Schrader.
Yeah, probably
Paul Schrader.
One of the architects, I guess, for that era of filmmaking.
He wrote like the one of the go-to books about screenwriting. I think, like On Story. I forgot what the fucking name of it is. Just like Save the Cat is shit, but like Robert Towne wrote. I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Go on. Sorry.
I think
Early-
also with Chinatown, it's just that Jack Nicholson is like the face of the new Hollywood. You know, when I think new Hollywood, I think Jack Nicholson, because he was in Easy Rider, Five Easy Pieces, The King of Marvin Gardens. I mean, he was huge in the 70s. You know, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Chinatown. It was just like, that was the decade of Jack, and he was great in just about everything he was in.
Absolutely.
You know, he just had like this great performance, like this great screen presence. Like, he still was really great in the films, you know, in the 80s and 90s. Like, he's never been a bad actor, like, by any means.
No.
But his 70s movies, I mean, Five Easy Pieces is probably still my favorite movie of his. That movie I just considered perfect. I just love Five Easy Pieces to death. Especially just the way that it ends with that kind of aimlessness, and I felt like, you know, it's like between Easy Rider and Five Easy Pieces, having these new Hollywood movies have these kind of like non-endings or these really abrupt endings. You know, like that was definitely a thing that, you know, that was popular, and these were two of the first, you know, in that wave. Because in Five Easy Pieces, it literally just ends with him going in a bathroom and then deciding to hitch a ride with another guy and ditch his girlfriend. And then it's like, oh, okay, you know. Well, I mean, because the movie ended when he was with his dad, you know, in that wheelchair scene. That was really the real end of it.
Yeah, that's a great scene.
And with Easy Rider, you have the
there's
demise of each character just happening abruptly, without any sort of warning or expectation for that. Starting with Jack Nicholson. Jack Nicholson suffers a violent death in that movie, and then at the end of the film, it goes in a completely different direction than what most people are expecting.
Yeah, and I want to say too, because, you know, I think about this when I think of Easy Rider, and I just rewatched Midnight Cowboy before recording this. Yeah, I love Midnight Cowboy. And another thing, and I was noticing this with a lot of these new Hollywood films, is that they were really experimenting with editing, because what Easy Rider does for transitions, it'll do like this, like, dot, 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 where it kind of shows the next scene for a few frames, and then it goes back to the scene that you're currently watching, and then it shows the next scene for a few frames. And it does this where, like, it's I don't know. It's like this weird sort of transition that they do.
Yeah, it's really like scenes. Experimental.
Yeah, that stuck out to me.
Midnight,
and also the sequence where they're tripping on drugs and going to Mardi Gras, I believe it was, where it just seems like, oh, we got the camera, we don't know what to shoot. Let's just shoot for today. We'll make stuff up on the fly, and then that'll be the scene. Like you get that in Easy Rider, and it makes for a good montage. And also in the film Parallax View, that one has a very distinct montage as well, where you have that Warren Beatty character getting brainwashed. I think that's, you know, that might be one of the strongest montages in film history.
Oh, yeah, where it says, like, mother, father,
it's effective,
love,
and it gradually builds
home,
and becomes
country.
this eerie thing, even though it starts off very benign.
Yeah, it starts off, it's too, like that. So, the Parallax View, in case, I actually just watched that for the first time today. So it's very fresh in my memory. The Parallax View is a conspiracy movie. There were a bunch of these conspiracy films in the 70s.
Yeah.
I mean, you also had All the President's Men. You had 3 Days of the Condor.
Yeah.
You know, you had a bunch of these, like, conspiracy films. But the Parallax View was directed by Alan J. Pakula, who I think also directed To Kill a Mockingbird and All the President's Men. Warren Beatty is a reporter who kind of uncovers this shadow group of assassins, and he infiltrates it, and things don't exactly go as planned. I won't spoil it for anyone, but about halfway through the film, he goes through this brainwashing sequence that is all, it's just static images, that initially makes sense. Like you see mother, and then it's like these images of sort of motherly figures and father, you know, images of fatherly figures, and then me, and then country and home and blah, blah, blah. And then the images start going faster, and you start not knowing quite what you're looking at. The images also get more depraved. You know, like showing violence and orgies and, you know, things
Right.
of that nature. And yeah, it's a fantastic sequence.
It's
Fantastic
I mean,
acting.
that movie has a pretty radical concept, I think, by modern standards, to have like the premise be that there's a corporation that is in the market of creating and outsourcing political assassins is pretty wild.
Yeah. Well, it kind of, I tweeted earlier today that it would be a good double feature with Manchurian Candidate because
Yeah, kind of similar
in
concept.
Manchurian, yeah, it's similar, but it's also the opposite. Because in Manchurian Candidate, the concept is that, these people are taken over to USSR, China, you know, like these communist countries. They're brainwashed there. They go to the States, and then they become assassins, right? It's like this foreign influence. And then in Parallax View, it's not just a domestic influence, it's a private influence. It's like, oh yeah, it's the corporation that actually holds the power, and there are these shadow groups or government, sectors that just hire them out. Like the government doesn't have assassins of their own. And then you think about it and you think, actually, that kind of makes sense because the government doesn't want it coming back on them. The government just does some 6-month long, because it begins and ends with them just sort of talking about, well, we did our research and we had our trials and everything, our hearings, and no questions are asked, but it looks like it was just a crazy guy.
Yeah.
So so that's, it's almost more insidious and it's almost more frightening because I think that it's less frightening to think that an enemy nation would, be combative in some sort of way than, oh yeah, it's coming from within, and anybody that could just be this hired assassin. And it's not even like they're a Jason Bourne kind of figure. It's just that they're a psychopath.
Right.
You
right.
guys, have you guys seen the China Syndrome?
I
guys-
don't believe I have.
No.
It's okay. So it's like it kind of falls in line with like the 70s like conspiracy stuff. It's just it's a nuclear situation, like in a nuclear plant, and they like refuse to acknowledge that the reactor I think is gonna blow or something like that. It's good though. It's really good. I really liked the 1970s conspiracy movies. I remember when I started really getting into 70s films, it was because I was looking for like conspiracy thrillers specifically, and that's how I found the Parallax View. That's how I found China Syndrome, 3 Days of Condor, and Network, and just a whole bunch of other stuff that was good.
And they weren't afraid to have downer endings.
Yeah,
Like,
well,
that's the other
Parallax
thing.
View has like a fucking terribly like I haven't seen it since 2013 to be so, and I have a shit memory, so I barely remember anything about Parallax View, but I do remember like it had a really downer ending if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it, but it's a it's almost like a horror movie ending.
Yeah.
Because I mean the whole concept of it is that it's this gigantic shadow corporation. I mean, what is a journalist gonna actually do? There's this, but throughout this entire film, there's this sense of like this kind of how it's an existential threat. How there's no way one guy can actually bring all of it down. I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like he just feels like it's his moral duty to at least try to fight against it.
Well, I like
And
that.
that's all he can do.
I like the sense of hopelessness that you get from those movies are great. Like, have you guys seen the Conversation?
Yeah.
Conversations with
Just like that last
Gene Hackman, right? That's Coppola.
Yeah, it's a Coppola
Yeah.
movie. Yeah, so like the last scene of that movie is him just ripping his fucking apartment to shreds looking for bugs. And it's just like it's the most like the character is one of the most paranoid main characters I've ever seen in a film. But that movie especially is just like made by the sense of paranoia and by that last scene. Like I can just like look at a screenshot of that last scene and just like feel the same thing I felt the first time I saw it. Him just fucking just ripping his whole apartment to shreds.
Yeah, and then playing the saxophone.
Oh, it's great.
And it's a very
Yeah.
good subdued film comparatively to The Godfather and also The French Connection. I wound up doing a double feature of The French Connection and The Conversation in one night, and yeah, it's a very underrated film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
really
it's just
lo-
because it
oh,
came
sorry.
out in the same decade as The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, but The Conversation is great. And something that they did in The Conversation was they did multiple recordings of that same conversation. So when you're hearing it in different parts of the film, it's like different takes. He puts in these different takes so that it's like you're hearing it differently, but there's been enough time. So you think you're hearing the same thing and you're just hearing something new or something a little bit different, but it's actually different takes. It's interesting how Coppola really plays with your mind because he's putting, because it's almost an unreliable narrator sort of situation because of how Gene Hackman's character just gets super paranoid about the entire affair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. I love that about the movie. Lowres, do you not like The French Connection? Because I think that movie's fun.
No, I actually really enjoy The French Connection. William Friedkin's probably he might be my favorite filmmaker from the 20th century in general. I'm a big fan of The Exorcist and especially Sorcerer, which we talked about on my podcast movies. He's been, if you especially catch him from, I think he started in the late 60s. From that era up until maybe like the mid 80s, he's extremely consistent, and then he starts to fall off.
Yeah. What about To Live and Die in L.A.?
I
do you feel
really
about
enjoy that film. It feels a little Michael Mann-y by comparison to many of his other films, but it is a great crime film as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I just love the energy of that movie.
That movie has one of
Yeah,
the
it's-
best trailers. Also, if
Oh,
it's really
gotta
worth
check
checking out. Who did the soundtrack to that? I think it might have been like Duran Duran or somebody like that.
I thought it was like Tangerine Dream.
No.
wasn't it?
They
Or
did
no?
they did Sorcerer and Thief, which is not his movie, but Michael Mann's film. Yeah.
That's a Michael
Yeah.
Mann movie.
Yeah, I saw Thief like once a long time
Oh
ago.
Wang
yeah,
Chung?
yeah. Wang Chung.
I thought this podcast was about. Well, Lowres hit me up and was like, "Well, they want you to think of." I don't remember if it was either your favorite 5 movies from the 70s or favorite 5 directors. So I did both, and none of them qualify into what you guys are talking about at all, which is why I'm quiet over here. Because to me, some of my favorite comedies were made by Mel Brooks in the 70s. Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, even Silent Movie and High Anxiety, which are not great, but they still have like their thing, especially at the time when they came out.
Yeah.
And then also you have John Carpenter with Dark Star, Halloween, Precinct 13. You have the Kurt Russell as Elvis movie. And even something like Someone's Watching Me that's really silly, but it works, especially with that period of time. But you guys are talking about New Hollywood, and I know like close to nothing about it.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, like I had seen I've seen a lot of, if not, most of Scorsese's movies, and definitely all of Coppola's 70s stuff. I'd seen quite a bit of New Hollywood stuff, all of Rafelson's films. However, I did have to watch a whole bunch of movies this weekend because I was like, gosh, I'm having these guys on at, we're talking about a whole decade. I have to like catch up on, every movie from the 70s that, is a blind spot for me and that I've been holding off on. I think I watched like 10 movies this weekend. Although some of them weren't from the 70s, and it was just because I felt like turning my brain off. So I ended up, one example being, I was scrolling on HBO Max last night just looking for some stupid bullshit movie just to turn on because I didn't really feel like paying that much attention to anything. And I put on Jason Goes to Hell, Friday the 13th, number 9.
A new Hollywood classic.
And that new Hollywood classic. And that has to be one of the stupidest movies I've ever seen. I fell asleep about halfway through. I mean, because, the thing with Friday the 13th, right, is like they introduce new characters and you go, okay, they're going to be dead within 5 minutes. And then they're dead within 5 minutes. Like, it's that, I mean, you know what you're getting into. But the thing with this movie is that it starts off. Have you guys seen this one?
Oh, yeah.
And
no, I
like,
vividly remember it starts with, what was it, the coroner just being so tempted by Jason's delicious-looking heart that he has to bite into it.
Yeah,
and
so
he just has to eat Jason's heart.
But see, here, actually, so my immersion was ruined even before this. So, the very first shot or the very first scene is this lady getting ready to take a bath or a shower or something. She runs the bath. She gets naked, and it's like, okay, I expect that from these kinds of movies. I expect to see a little bit of boobage. That's what you come here for, boobs and blood, right? That's what you watch these movies for. And, but you hardly see anything. Trust me, I was looking. And, and then it's like, Jason comes out of nowhere, so I guess you don't have to be trying to have sex. You just, if you're trying to take a shower and you get naked, the movie camera just happens to be there. Jason's going to try to kill you, I guess. And she has enough time to, put this towel around herself, like to cover everything up. And she's running away from him while, wearing this towel. I'm like, come on, that would definitely fall off. That's not realistic. And then she does a fucking acrobatic, like, flip into a bush, and the towel just stays clean on. And I'm like, no, if it had been almost she was running, it definitely would have been super funny if she did that flip and just flew off onto a cop. Come on, you like it. Well, totally missed.
In 93.
93.
It's 93, right? This is when Al Gore's wife was freaking out about lyrics in CDs, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. But what I'm saying is that the immersion was ruined. And then they blow him up, and that and the coroner.
I thought it would have been
phantom.
I thought it would have been most
bush.
realistic if she was a D cup or higher. Personally, that's when my immersion was ruined.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, she had. I mean, yeah. I'm not going to get into that, right? I'm going to get me too'd on Twitter if I say anything more. But what I'm saying is that the towel should not have stayed on. Realistically, maybe she could put on a gown or something like that. A negligee.
Especially when you have little tits. I agree, 100%.
Do you guys like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Yeah. The original is good.
The original?
Yeah.
I like the second one also.
Yeah. Yep, 1 and 2. That's it.
The third one is all right.
I like the McConaughey one.
That's where Leatherface is
New
a
Generation
cross-dresser in that movie, and he's like the woman of the house.
Yeah.
It's very peculiar.
Yeah, I think the first one's really good, like, really great. I don't know, because you brought up Jason Voorhees, so I was like, okay,
well, it's one of those movies that still feels like dirty when you watch it, and it's something that's really difficult to get. This is something that me and Lowres have talked about a lot, where whenever we watch movies from the 70s or around this time, The movies have like a little bit of dirty that you can't get now, no matter how hard you try.
Yeah.
So things like this, things like fuck, I always forget the name. Lowres, what's the movie with the models? The psycho guy,
Maniac.
Elijah Wood.
Oh, Maniac.
The remake.
I love that.
Maniac, yeah, like the original Maniac. Like you can't get that texture and that dirtiness that movie has anymore because it's very much of that time and like how dirty everything, not just the city, but literally everything. Even the character when he's wearing a suit, he looks like he stinks. He's still greasy. And in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is similar. It's like everyone you see has like a dirtiness to them that you can't get now in movies. I guess because everyone is pretty in movies now, so it's difficult to get like that dirtiness and like that. No one is comfortable in this scene type of thing. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one, to me, the whole time you're watching it, you have that feeling of like uncomfortable, not just because of the violence that's happening, but just the way that the movie's shot is so dirty and so. I don't know if real, like I've never been in a situation where I'm in a place like that type of dirtiness. I mean, I'm from Costa Rica, so I've experienced dirtiness, but not that kind. But for whatever reason, whenever I watch that, like it has
like raw.
that feeling to it. Yeah, that you can't find, especially when you watch any of their sequels, where they try to do that, but everything is very sleek and very.
I actually
modern.
I really enjoyed the Maniac remake a lot. I don't know if you guys sounds like you guys don't like it very much. I thought it was great.
No,
I want to agree with Hans here that the 70s movies had this dirtiness to them, and and wondering why maybe we don't have a dirtiness now. It's because of honestly, I think it's because of digital photography. That's a big thing.
It definitely is, yeah.
Yeah, and the film grain, that's why I still shoot my stuff on 16 millimeter because I really love that. I really love the film grain and the kind of texture it gives. Like if you're gonna talk about textured movies, not just horror films, but Cassavetes movies are very textured. Yeah. They're very grainy, but it gives this kind of like raw, emotional feeling to it. And you're thinking like you have a movie like A Woman Under the Influence. If you shot that on like an Arri Alexa and made it look slick and clean, which the digital photography tends to make things look a little bit plasticky in my opinion, especially skin tones.
I think another problem is also the
it's like
everything is just too crisp. Everything is too clear. And this is actually something that I really enjoyed that a lot of people didn't seem to like about Army of the Dead, which is that Zack Snyder, the auteur, decided to put a $2,000 Japanese lens on that blurs literally like 85% of the image, right? And no, it's not terrible. It's great. And this is
Wait, I'm gonna have to watch this movie.
Did you watch the Snyder cut of Justice League?
Did you see my video on the Snyder cut of Justice League? Well, I mean, it's kind of a shitpost video. But yeah, no, I actually enjoyed the Snyder cut of Justice League.
the entire movie. Yes,
Me too.
I thought it was
Hans gave it a glowing review.
It.
He compared Snyder to Kubrick, and then he saw some Zack Snyder fans acting up online and tried to walk back his entire opinion. He is so easily persuaded by public opinion here. It's shameful.
That's
very annoyed.
That's the thing, is that my video was on the Snyder Cut was making fun of the fans who are like just like had a sort of religious reverence for it, and it's funny. It was funny reading some of the comments because
they got mad at you.
Yeah, people got mad at me, and they're like, "Oh, you just hate this movie because you're a fucking snob, and you hate it when the common man wins in Hollywood." And I'm thinking, look, you can like the movie, you can like the movie or dislike it. But there's no common man winning in this situation here.
It's like has been a millionaire for over 20
Started
years.
his
Zack
career
Snyder
by
is a
working with
common
Morrissey.
man.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Lowres, that he is an auteur or like Michael Bay. Like, I mean, that is someone who has obvious oeuvre, and they have
Right.
a distinct
Yeah. Here's the thing.
style.
In Auteur,
And so that you
doesn't
are
need to
right,
be,
but I think that he's shit.
sure.
still.
Look, that's fair.
You were ball is
Yeah, Uwe Boll, in that, if you consider them to be auteurs, so yeah.
Well,
Uwe
here's the
Boll
thing.
is
Here's the
also
thing. Here's
an
the thing that
auteur.
people get caught up on. You don't have to be classy or particularly artful to be an auteur, right? An auteur just means you have a very distinct style.
Good,
But
yeah.
to what I was trying to get to before, the last 10 minutes of Justice League, this dream sequence where you have Batman and you have the Joker talking and how it's very soft focus and kind of clumsy, that is the entire look of Army of the Dead. And I appreciate that because if you watch any other, I mean, especially a Netflix action film, you're going to make out every single detail in the frame. And that's, I think that's another reason why the older films have a distinct texture and look to them, is you have that softness and then you do have the grit of that 16 millimeter or 35 millimeter.
Well,
listen,
and just to also add, because I know people are going to come and I don't know, people might comment and about film or digital photography, but 35 millimeter film right now is also very clean. It's very clean, and that's why they have to dirty it up. You also had Paul Thomas Anderson on Phantom Thread. In the after he finished editing it, he blew it up to 70 millimeter from 35 just to get more grain in the image because the original 35 frame was too clean. It was too sleek. Because film has come a long way since the 70s.
Did it work?
Yeah, there's a lot more
haven't seen
grain.
that.
There is a lot more grain in there. It's not like it's not like a ton of grain to where you notice it, but it's to the point where you feel it. And when you shoot 4 perforation 35 millimeter film now, it looks very clean. That's why you have some films now going to shooting on like Technoscope, like Good Time. I've seen Her Smell was another Technoscope film. I've seen a lot more films shot on Technoscope because it's 35 millimeter, and you get that the 239, 240 by 1, like the widescreen thing, but you also get a good amount of grain in there, and film is better at just about everything than it used to be back in the 70s or 60s. So the Technoscope of 2020 is actually going to be much cleaner and is going to be I don't know if higher resolution is even a thing when you're talking analog. But yeah, one of the problems I think with companies like Netflix, and this leads to this very crisp, clean look, is that there's a focus. Actually, it's not just Netflix, it's just about everybody. There's a focus on resolution, like how many pixels, how crisp is the image, resolution over everything. I want the 4K.
Well,
DVD.
it's
see it in
so
4K.
clean looking now that it looks televisual. That's one of my major issues with it. Like,
Before we move on from Army of the Dead, because I'm gonna forget my train of thought here, I appreciate the fact that Zack Snyder thinks that a $90 million movie is the perfect movie to start interacting with these weird Chinese lenses that might have mistakes. Because, that's what you want from your zombie action movie, a lens that might look like shit. I appreciate the fact that he has nobody on his side that tells him that he's being fucking stupid. Because watching a movie for 2.5 hours with that thing, it's really distracting, and it's not the greatest experience unless you're a huge fan of him. I don't know. But my biggest point with the dirtiness of one of the old movies compared to the new ones is that when you watch someone like Thief, and I'm going to compare it to Army of the Dead because they're both about someone trying to break into a safe to save their family, right? Which is what happens with Batista-ish. And when you watch something like Thief, where they're trying to get into this safe, and it takes like 5-10 minutes of very intense
cool
work of them trying to get through the thing, and then on Army of the Dead, they just open it and then it's closed. But everything looks so much slicker because of the way that I mean I guess it's digital, right? I don't know if the because I
I'm not
didn't
sure.
watch the documentary that I did.
I'm not
I don't
sure
know
if it's
digital.
digital because Zack Snyder
Zack Snyder?
shoots a lot on film.
I haven't.
Dude.
So I haven't watched Army of the Dead, but from what you just described, it sounds
It
like
sounds awesome.
yeah, I gotta watch it. It sounds like I gotta watch
I
it.
know you were being sarcastic with a lot of those remarks, but unironically you were being
Now,
pretty
I like the fact.
Hold on.
Listen,
I
my
like the
problem-
fact that he rambled for 5 minutes just to say, "Oh, Thief is a better movie than Army of the Dead." No shit, great commentary, Hans. Anyway,
I gotta.
No, Army of
Listen,
the Dead was shot on a red.
The reason why I'm upset about this is because I had so much good thoughts about Zack Snyder after Justice League. Like, I've never been a fan of him. Like, I think he's good at what he does, but I think that he gets a little bit overbearing whenever he tries to control everything, and then things don't come out that great when he has power over everything. But after Justice League, I was like, okay, so this is your vision. I respect that, and I liked your vision way more than whatever they end up doing with what they put out. But then when he puts out something like this, where it's just like, oh, so you're just being, you're just making this movie for yourself, and it's like, fuck it. Like, that really pissed me off, and then it's just, I don't know, 2.5 hours of you being cute with his lenses, and it's
Hans,
just like,
Hans,
That's like
you gotta
every-
understand something though.
Oh.
You gotta understand something. Army of the Dead, isn't it like the most watched,
it's the most
Netflix
popular
movie?
film
I heard
in
that.
the history of movies. That's what I've heard.
Yeah. So here's what here's just the fact.
only
Is
hold on,
using those
only
lenses
af-
worked. Using those lenses worked.
only after what's the chess series that they said was also like the most popular series of
It
all
wasn't
time?
even that
Oh,
good.
the Queen's
yeah,
Gambit.
it wasn't that good.
Yes, believe Netflix.
I don't know. I mean, the girl in the Queen's Gambit is pretty hot. She's got the weird eyes,
Yeah, she's
but
got, like, yeah.
I dig it.
She's got the LMAO eyes, whatever. But yeah, no, that I don't know. Like, it's weird because like all that just felt like so typical of like a Netflix series where it's just like perfectly engineered to keep people engaged and to binge watch it. It felt
Yeah.
so soulless.
But can I just, before we move on from Zack Snyder, Lowres, because I know that you have a theory of what he's trying to do with Netflix,
Yeah,
right?
because
his
there were
Army
so
of
many
Dead
things in Army of the Dead, like they were that I didn't even catch because we just did a show with these other guys, and one of them watched it 3 times, and he didn't even like it. He just wanted to, 3 times in a week.
In
And he's like,
one
oh, there were
week."
UFOs, there was cyborgs, there's so much unexplained shit. And knowing that they already shot the prequel and they got an animated series, it's like, all right, well, here's what Zack Snyder's doing. He's laying the seeds for terraforming Netflix to be his own shared universe thing where he just has perpetual employment. And if they fire him and they want to mess with his properties, then he's going to get a paycheck from that regardless. This is all original stuff.
Base.
That's 5head. That's high IQ.
4D chess.
I think he's most people I feel like share this opinion that he's just a terrible storyteller. I don't really have anything like a crazy
my
take
opinion
on
is
Zack
that
Snyder
I think
other than-
he's best when he's like dealing with other people's material. I'll certainly agree with that.
Okie.
What's up, dude?
You might think that he's a terrible storyteller, but what other director builds gyms on sets and encourages everyone on his crew to lift?
A director shouldn't be fucking building gyms on the sets. They should
He's a
be eating
craftsman.
like nonstop. They
According to who?
Dude, they
According
should
to
look
who?
like Francis Ford Coppola, dude. They should be fucking fat and
Hey,
old.
now Francis Ford
or
Coppola
short.
lost something
They should
like
look-
60 pounds trying to shoot Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, he lost a lot of weight.
I actually
He looked
didn't
like
know
he
that.
did 2 seasons of Survivor.
They
back
should
to
look
back.
like they.
They should look like
They
Michael
should-
Moore, dude. They should look like shit.
They should look like Rob Reiner now.
Yeah.
No, they should look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's what they should look like. Look, if you want to be a good, it's mind, body, and soul, right? So
Yeah, that's when we were recording our movie in Boston. That's what Lowres did. He was just shirtless the whole time, and he would spray his chiseled chest the whole time so that I would get the
I like
performance.
that. I like that this
Yeah,
imagery
you know,
came out of
Oh,
your
that
head.
trailer.
That
That trailer,
Actually, you know,
dude, that trailer
When I-
was fucking crazy good. Like I really like
Thank
that
you.
trailer.
Thank you.
Yeah, especially like the part where what's it called, like you guys are fighting in the car, and then like you hear the acceleration.
Yeah, that
some
was
reason, that
in
moment's,
camera
like,
audio.
so
That's not
good.
even Foley. That I just decided to leave that in. He put some dents on my face by actually hitting me multiple times. But yeah, well, yeah,
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, this fake blood ain't coming off. And
Listen,
it was actual cuts.
we we were recording at what 3 a.m, 2 a.m. So the day before recording, we will be like, okay, so for tomorrow we need to, rehearse this fight scene and choreograph it, and then we will get into the car the next morning at 2 or 3 a.m, forgetting that we were supposed to do this, and we're like, all right, well, I guess I elbow you in the face here, and I guess I'm just gonna hit you on the steering wheel, and yeah, that's what happened. A couple of times I think he got me a couple of times too, but it was just like a very guerrilla, I guess, of we just injured by the end of it to just make it realistic, or hopefully it looks realistic, because if it's not, like, we're just bruised for no
Right.
reason.
Yeah, no, it got me excited to watch it. It looked sick.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. Speaking of indie features,
What was your budget?
Kino, you have your movie coming out. So I just watched your announcement video, and we talked a little bit about one of your actors on there who's in Mallrats.
Oh yeah. yeah, that was Jeremy London. So yeah, he was in Mallrats. Yeah, his brother. Yeah. Yeah, I know. See here. Okay, I actually took this advice from Mark Duplass. I think that's how you say his last name.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Look, you want to make your indie movie, you want to have like an actor or whatever, and get some like TV actor that's not doing anything anymore, and then they'll be in your movie." And I guess I took that advice. But yeah, so Jeremy London. Actually, he wasn't even supposed to be in it because initially I was going into this with a kind of a Bressonian idea, right? Because I'm a man of ideals, right? Where, it's like Bresson was like, I have my models. I don't want to use anyone that anyone knows anything about, right? It's like they need to be real people and, all these kind of ideas and stuff like that. Well, what happened was the one actor who was supposed to be this character just was a total douchebag on set. That was the only time I actually ever like screamed at anybody on set was to this guy.
Damn, you should have gotten Jason London instead.
I can tell. I know Jason. I know both.
Oh.
Jeremy is more reliable. I'll just say that.
Really? I thought Jason London was the good brother and Jeremy London was the bad brother.
Well, I mean, they're twin brothers. It's a little bit of it's a mix, right? It's a give and take, right? But yeah, no, I knew Jeremy better. I know Jason, but I know Jeremy better, and he was living in Florida at the time. So after a night of, it was a really bad night. I remember it was another thing. It was like 2 or 3 a.m. In the morning. I'm standing out on the street, like in this kind of bad part of town, when this guy just tells me, "Yeah, no, it wasn't even 2 or 3 in the morning. It was like midnight." And this guy was like, "Yeah, I think I'm just gonna go home now." And I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? Your scene's coming up in like 20 minutes, And he goes, "Yeah, the wife wants me back." And that's when I started like yelling at him. I had a David O. Russell moment.
What you groped your trans niece?
And he called her a
No,
cunt.
actually, so
No.
so it's funny.
Was his wife Claire Forlani?
No, so it's actually funny. I'm making a big video about like the making of my movie and kind of like the different like weird things that happened and basically what I learned. And I mean, if you guys are this far, you know, if the audience is this far into listening to this, I would say the hardest thing about making a movie is just managing people, because you have so many different kinds of like egos on set that you have to juggle. That's the hardest. Like the technical stuff, you can learn it, you know. You know, and the technical stuff stays the same, even though I shot my movie on 16 millimeter film. I've been shooting on film for years before that. So for me, that wasn't anything like, you know, I wasn't, the lighting situation, cinematography situation, none of that really bothered me. It was really just people. And so this guy just left, and it kind of fucked up the schedule for that whole day, for that week, really. And the next morning, I just called Jeremy, and I just got him on the next morning. He came up that weekend, and you know, we just sort of I was like, all right, well, we're gonna shoot on the weekend because, you know, I only have the gear for, you know, 3 weeks. You know, after 3 weeks, I got nothing. And yeah, so that's how I got him on. And yeah, he came up for like a day, 2 days, and we shot all of his shots in 2 days. And then so that's it. Actually, in that the place where where I had the freak out earlier in the day. So it's like this bar in my town.
Is there a recording of this freak out? Is there like
this is what's gonna
like
leak
in
like 6 months when this movie drops?
Yeah, my Christian Bale moment. Yeah.
Oh man, I love that recording.
And yeah, for the record, I'm totally with Christian Bale on that freak out.
I think
moment.
history has proven Christian Bale to be on the right side of it.
Me and you are done professionally. I just
well,
love that.
Shane Hurlbut is like an awful cinematographer for one, but that's another conversation.
I think time has proven that Christian Bale and also Mel Gibson in his voicemails was also righteous.
Oh, she was such a C-word, dude. That chick, like, you listen to those voicemails, and the evasiveness and evasiveness and the lies that this chick is spewing, but like she's just, I don't know, she's just so full of
just hyperventilating because he just wants a blowjob.
Yeah. No, but it's like he's super drunk, and then she's recording him. I mean, Mel Gibson's not a good guy at all. He's
a great
not,
guy,
obviously.
is what you really meant to say.
He's great. Yeah.
I don't think he's a good guy.
One of the greatest of Hollywood all time.
That recording, like, it paints her in such a bad light, in my opinion. I don't know, she's just so passive aggressive and annoying.
The fact that she sold that recording of him at his worst to the tabloids, I could be wrong about this. I think she had a kid with him too. Just the capability of doing that, in my opinion, proves that she's far more evil than what Mel Gibson is capable of in his drunken stupor.
Well, it's Eastern.
Oh
Eastern
yeah,
European
so the
women,
coldest
right?
to the cold.
It's just no emotions. Yeah, it's just. It's a pussy. That's it. That's all you get. There's no emotional anything.
Yeah, what it proved to me is that maybe I should just turn gay and not deal with women. But you know, I couldn't do that, so just a celibate life, you know, to you know.
I don't know, man. Kevin Spacey's coming back, right? So I don't think even
Kevin
gay people are
Spacey's
safe
gay.
anymore.
Kevin Spacey's gay. That's the thing.
That's why he got canceled.
That's the problem. But that's the problem is he did it to men. If he did it to women, he wouldn't be coming back.
That's true. I think you know what I think that's.
I was
Right,
joking.
but I'm
I was saying that like he got canceled just because he's gay.
Well, he tried to pivot to that.
Hey,
remember, it's like
the media ran with
the
that.
stories were like
They
he
ran
raped
with
a
that for the
kid.
first 6 or
Yeah.
7 hours. They were like, "Can you believe it? Kevin Spacey's gay." And then it was
Obviously.
then everybody was like, "Hold on, wait a minute. This is pedophilia. This is borderline child rape."
Yeah, this isn't even.
He literally, I think in the 80s, like he
He raped the star of one of the Dazed and Confused stars.
He
tried to.
He did a
I don't think
good
he
old
actually
Casey
finished it.
Afflecking where he just fell on top. He just tumbled on top of some small boy. Yeah.
Oh man.
You just tumble on top of your hard dick. Yeah. It's I don't know. I just think it's.
Well, you're going to defend Kevin Spacey?
Yeah,
you don't think
no.
it's? I just don't think it's a big
I love-
deal.
yeah.
Him
No,
trying to sleep
no.
with a
Kevin
13-year-old.
Spacey defender.
That's anyway.
Yeah.
No, I just think it's funny that Kevin Spacey had like his Liberace moments where everyone was like, "Can you believe he was gay?" And he's like, "Yeah, have you seen him speak ever? Like, how is this a surprise to anyone? How is this like a
Dude,
shock?"
what was that fucking Louis C.K. thing on Owen where he starts talking about Kevin Spacey, American Beauty,
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
his
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing is like, oh, she like when he's fantasizing about the teenage girl. He starts imagining like fucking flowers dropping
Petals?
dropping.
Yeah. He's like,
It's like the gayest shit ever.
and then when she's there naked, he can't fuck her. He just
He
can't
just
get
decides
hard.
not to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys talked to Rich Voss.
Well, we called him up. I have his phone number. Yeah, so I just decided to ring him out of the blue to make Hans uncomfortable because he has a low threshold for that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so,
it worked. Mm-hmm. Well, you had him before on one
twice.
of the early.
Yeah. I've spoken
attempts at
to Rich
podcasts.
twice,
Yeah.
and he did not remember me because I was a much younger man in those days.
Oh, that's
So
hilarious, dude. I was a huge O&A guy and a Stern guy, so I used to listen to O&A a lot. I listen to a lot of Stern still.
To bring this back to New Hollywood,
Oh, yeah.
there was a recent Facebook post by Paul Schrader. I just want to read
It's
out for the
terrific.
audience because
Hell yeah.
Paul Schrader's
Is that today's?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is today. Paul Schrader's his Facebook is a gold mine. It's just as good as Taxi Driver or Raging Bull or Mishima. So he said, "By what happened to the teen concept to just getting fucked and doing shit? Break windows, piss on people's lawns, spray paint storefronts, set old tires afire, knock over tombstones, drive drunk, play dodge 'em with passing trains and trucks, poop in the park, flash passing cars, throw firecrackers at girl parties. Have we lost this?"
I thought you were going to come out with a different one.
I think
I didn't know he did multiple posts today. I saw something else about his dream.
No, read that.
Let me just pull that up real quick, unless one of you guys can beat me to it.
Well, the poop in the park is probably the one that's still happening, right?
Well, in Europe, I guess, yeah.
It's like in
In San Francisco,
New York or California too.
Yeah, San Francisco, LA. Yeah, I guess pooping in the park, but do teens do it? I think it's like older men who are homeless that do it.
I generally don't understand like shitting. Like
You just
like,
gotta go.
anywhere
Sometimes
that you need to
your
use-
stomach's hurting.
like
do you
anywhere
mean?
you need to use leaves
Yeah.
to like wipe your ass. Like I'm not.
I don't think the people doing
Or
that
you
are
just don't
yeah,
wipe.
right. I don't think they're concerned with wiping. I think
They're just like
got
they
things
just
to
fucking
do.
shit and then like they're just like
No.
nasty back
You
there.
sit-
They just walk
listen.
around.
You sit there until it dries up and you just tap
Oh
it.
man, this is like they're
Oh, no.
here's
this
the
is- this is
here's the Paul Schrader post that I was thinking of. This one that you just read is only 3 hours old. So wow, that really is from today. So Paul Schrader posted 16 hours ago on his Facebook. Last night I had a dream straight from the Me Too times. I was filming a scene in which I was sexually humiliating a beautiful actress. Before each take, I described what I was going to do. I received her permission on film to do so, and then I did it. By the way, I have never filmed such a scene, but I did just finish a new parentheses mildly erotic script in 6 days straight, so perhaps that explains my overheated dream. And I especially found one of the comments very amusing here. A man named Jeffrey Wells decided to comment, "No matter how you phrase it, how you shot it, what kind of assurance you receive from the dream actress, none of that matters. What matters is that you dreamt about, parentheses, sexually humiliating a beautiful actress. And by that admission alone, you are, all capitals, guilty Period. Why even mention this kind of dream? You know what the fanatics will do with it. We are living in 1794 Paris. If you want to live, you don't ally yourself with George Danton. Simple. And Paul Schrader replies, well, gee, Jeffrey, we're all dying to hear your PG dreams. Maybe the one about how you lost the keys to your car. And he ratioed that man.
How much you would bet that he's just a drunk and he just says crazy
It's Ambien.
shit? It's not even.
I think he's got the same problem as Roseanne. He's just taking Ambien and going online.
Yeah, and he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah,
I mean, he's also 74 years old. How many 74-year-olds that are sound of mind do you know?
Well, he has to be sound of mind. He just he's coming out with a new movie that he shot actually near me in Biloxi, Mississippi, called the Card.
The Card Counter with Oscar Isaac. Yeah.
Yeah. So he just shot that, and I think he's shooting a new movie. Like, he's still pretty active as far as
still working.
Yeah. So he's. I would say he's of sound mind. He should, it could just be that he's getting fucked up on something and then going online and oversharing. But I find it funny because he has like a very boomer, just way of looking at things and like not caring about. Not caring about what people think. It's really entertaining.
And it's refreshing because everyone else is so concerned with what's going to happen, the repercussion of saying X, Y, and Z. And then he's just not caring whatsoever how people interpret things.
Yeah. So last night I was dreaming of sexually humiliating a beautiful actress.
How the fuck does that even come to mind? Like, yeah, I'm gonna post this.
He's just horned up all the time. I think he's just plenty boned up when he's on the internet and he can't help himself.
Oh man.
I mean, there is that stereotype of the horny old man.
Absolutely.
He's just,
and it's a
well,
true
he got
stereotype.
kicked out of
He's
two
just like-
poker groups for hitting on the women in there and then complaining about it after on Facebook.
He's just like watching like incel like red pill videos all day and fucking taking prescription drugs, and then he freaks out on Facebook.
Well, I mean, just picture someone that grew up in the times that he grew
was
up,
like-
right? And then fucking translate that to the online world where you can just say whatever to anyone you
He
want.
grew up like super
he's-
religious. I think he was like like a Mennonite or something.
Yeah, this is a
forget.
common thing with a lot of these filmmakers from this era, especially, is a lot of them were going to become like priests. And I think Paul Schrader might have been one of them. Danny Boyle is another one. He's not a 70s director. He really came up in the early 90s, but
Scorsese too.
That's right, yeah. So Catholicism is definitely, I think, a big hallmark of that era of filmmaking.
Yeah, definitely.
With Paul Schrader, I just kind of lost my point there, so go right ahead.
No, I was going to say, just religion in general, because if you think about The Deer Hunter and how the first hour of the film is about an Orthodox wedding, and it shows the whole ceremony ritual of, inside the Orthodox Church, and Michael Cimino really likes to sort of soak everything in, although I'm sure that Cimino was Catholic and not Orthodox, but, there's plenty of religious imagery too that sort of pervaded a lot of the 70s movies, and it makes sense, and also just from that time, not just about the religion, but also the time in which they were active or when they were young. It was like the 60s and 70s, and it's like you could hit on, if you're a man, you could hit on a bunch of random women, and they'd be flattered, and I don't know, maybe they would slap you or something like that. They'd react how they would react, but there wouldn't be any big consequences. Not like today, where you can hit on a woman or something like that, and then she can go to Twitter.
She's gonna post some screenshots
or something, and post some screenshots and call you a creep or something like that. I mean, that just wasn't that just didn't happen back then. It's a whole different paradigm. I mean, and not just in terms of love and relationships and sex and that sort of thing, but in terms of, you know, a lot of stuff. It's a whole different paradigm, but it's interesting. That's why New Hollywood almost feels like it's of this country, but it feels like it's of another country, like it's of something that's really no longer there.
Well, that was Harvey Weinstein. One of his defenses, obviously, like he became a prominent producer in the '90s, but like his defense was like, oh, it was just a different time.
I don't think that raping people...
2000.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work that well. Yeah.
I also don't think that, like, raping people has ever been okay. Like, I don't know. You know,
well, that's a strong opinion.
Well, hold, here's the thing.
Yeah, I know. Kino with the hot takes here.
I think, here's the perspective I think that they're coming loaded with. Somebody like a Bill Cosby, I don't think ever considered himself a rapist, because like drugging women was far more common in the 70s and 80s, which obviously is not to excuse that. You can still buy Spanish Fly at like porn shops. We had a mutual friend who worked at a porn shop and said that they kept that right up front at the counter. So, I mean, I think the general perception of what constitutes assault or taking advantage of someone has shifted so much from the 70s. And the case of like a Harvey Weinstein, where it's like, yeah, I'll get you this role, but you got to watch me jerk off into this plant first. You got to watch me lather myself up in the shower for 30 minutes, and then I'll put you in Tarantino's movie. That was not, I think, considered sexual assault back then anyway.
It was way more fair game.
It was auditioning.
Like, I guess, like, based off of the public consciousness. I listen to like really old Howard Stern clips all the time, and he constantly talks about like, oh yeah, you gotta get the girls to drink, and you gotta get them drunk, and then they'll fuck you. And he like constantly talks about like, oh, I want to fuck a 16 or a 17-year-old girl and stuff like that, and it just no one bats an eye. Obviously, like he was a very edgy person, but I think just like the public consciousness back then was what the fucking Revenge of the Nerds movie. I've never actually seen any of those movies.
Any 80s comedy. Like it's just nerds assaulting women and then they fall in love afterwards.
Yeah, like he literally makes the one chick think that he's her boyfriend because he wears like the Darth Vader costume or something like that, or some like knockoff of it, and then they have sex, and then he takes off the mask and she realizes that it's not her boyfriend, but she's like, but it was so good that I'm in love with you now.
Yeah, it's a nerd with a big dick. That's what they were writing.
Yeah.
This nerd that is me has a gigantic dick, so this jock girlfriend is in love with me now, even though I'm a dork.
Well, and isn't the line that he says something, the line is like, she goes, how did you get so good at sex? And he's like, well, us nerds, that's like all we think about is sex. He says something like that, like, because we don't like do something, all we really can think about is sex. And that's why I'm so good at it. And she just falls in love with him. It's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe.
That's not how it works.
So, such a strange idea that like, oh yeah, she enjoyed it while she thought she was with her boyfriend, and then you reveal that you raped her, and she's still like, oh, yeah, no, it was good.
All I think about is the porn I watch, because apparently these guys think about sex all day because they're not fucking. So their entire reality is based
coomers
on whatever porn they were watching in the 80s, which is also, when the cheesiest, the fucking
Ron Jeremy,
everyone I look at will fuck me movie. And that was the justification,
Yeah, it's coom brain, They're coomers, and but they're also sexually assaulting women, and something too that obviously it's like don't I tell myself don't really think too much into it, but I don't know, wouldn't she notice that like his body type was different, and that they're like because I don't know, like you get to know that about a person, and I'm thinking how is it that it's just his face that gives away that it's a different person, and not like every other part of the body if you're going to be intimate. but whatever. I'm thinking
Wait,
way too.
wait, which one? What are you talking
Revenge
about?
of the Nerds.
You lost me there.
I mean, yeah, you'll have to guess.
Are you talking about Weinstein?
No,
What's happening?
Revenge
No,
of the Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, right, yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. Like, the guy that wrote it is like, well, this nerd obviously has a dick that a jock would have, so that's why she would notice. Or I guess that's what we're supposed to understand. But it's like, yeah, that's not how the,
but he doesn't have a
it
jock's
works.
body. Like,
yeah, and you smell like a dork too.
yeah, exactly.
You're not sweaty. You don't smell like someone that's
Yeah, so
exercising or whatever. Yeah.
So not only did he rape a girl, but he raped an obviously, like, I don't know, blind, not smelling, mentally deficient
Dumb,
girl.
yeah.
Helen
Keller. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
Helen
man,
Keller.
He groomed her. He raped and groomed her, is what you're saying.
He raped and groomed a literal 1980s version of Helen Keller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's
It's
terrible.
a comedy,
It's
guys.
a comedy.
It's funny, guys.
I think, like, when people saw that movie back in the 80s, was like just everyone like just dying of laughter.
Oh, 100%. How many sequels are there? It
Yeah.
was very successful, right?
Yeah, I don't. It's bizarre to think about like half of the things that people got away with not even that long ago. That now it's like
Damn, we can't get away with them now anymore,
you
boys.
just
It's
can't.
over.
You can't do or say or make something like that ever without being like
No.
extremely
Well,
criticized.
the whole sex comedy genre, right? Where it's like a goofy guy that's like short with dumb hair and usually not very good looking, and then he always is with like the hottest woman in the country or
Yeah.
whatever, and she's just kind of goofy with them, and they love each other, but it's like she's naked all the time, and he's like this pudgy nothing with no personality or whatever, but he's the main character, so it doesn't matter. How many sex comedies were made where women were just seen as the tits or the ass or like the naked
yeah, it's like
you know,
all
person.
like wish
Yeah.
fulfillment, and yeah, I remember like watching a lot of like the American Pie and like Van Wilder stuff. Like when
Benny Hill.
Yeah.
Am I old?
I actually I know Benny Hill, but I never watched his.
That's
single
very
Benny Hill thing.
1960s. I would not say Benny Hill's a sex comedy romp sort of guy, but I think nowadays it's really it's more like Kino referenced Mark Duplass earlier. I tweeted about this before, but the whole sex comedy thing has been replaced with, oh, you're in an unsatisfactory marriage and your wife is having sex with some other schlubby guy and you have to learn to forgive her. That's where that has evolved into. Yeah, the
The
Apatow.
Apatow, right?
The funny
Yeah.
people.
It's the Apatow.
Yeah. Yeah, because he went from Superbad. No, that was Greg Matola or Motzola, or however you say that.
Well, the real life
Abel
Kevin
Ferrara.
Smith.
What was that fucking
Yeah,
movie
Abel
with what's that guy Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson? What was it called? again?
Marriage Story.
Did you guys like that? I couldn't get into that.
It's Marriage Story is basically a wannabe late 1980s Woody Allen film.
Huh. So
I mean, you could go and watch Husbands and Wives or Crimes and Misdemeanors or what's the other one? Hannah and Her Sisters. Like, it has the feeling of those movies, except there's one major difference between a Woody Allen movie and Marriage Story, and that's Woody Allen.
yeah,
Like,
I like Husbands and
like-
Wives and like a lot of
I-
these movies that you just mentioned.
yeah, like Woody Allen is great on camera, and he's funny.
Yeah.
And and he's able to sort of imbue a lot of these maybe loftier ideas into pretty good sort of general comedy. But Marriage Story didn't really do that. And I thought the Marriage Story was about two really bland people anyways. Like, both of them were
Totally
boring
agree.
as fuck.
Yeah, I couldn't get into
Yeah.
it at all. And I guess like you just like really aptly. It's Noah Baumbach who directed that, right? Am I?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like I mean, you pretty much aptly described most Noah Baumbach movies, saying that he's like a wannabe Woody Allen.
There's a
He is
lot
wannabe
of
Woody
these
Allen.
modern directors. I put Alex Ross Perry in this category as well, of trying to recreate the 1970s comedy or rom-com or domestic drama genre, and just not having the substance or maybe life experience of the directors from that period of time, and their films just wind up very bland, very dried out.
Well, I mean, you have a movie like Queen of Earth that just kind of feels like a mumblecore variation of like Persona or Three Women. And it's like, well, I'd rather watch Persona or Three Women than watch Queen of Earth. I don't know, like there is this sort of trend of directors who's trying to essentially remake films that have already been made, or just trying to be like, I'm going to be the successor to this director, when in the 70s you definitely had people that were just trying to be the first themselves, like instead of I don't know, it's a whole perspective thing.
Yeah, it's strange how often I'll watch a newer movie and just realize that they're just like aping something from the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always really disconcerting. By the way, Lowres, I know you're the only person probably who watched this. Maybe Hans watched it as well. I know Kino didn't watch it, but Joe.
Yeah.
I really want Kino to watch Joe.
Is that
No,
the
no,
Nicolas
that's-
Cage?
No.
Peter Boyle's Joe.
Peter Boyle, and it was pretty much like, so that inspired the character in All in the Family. So it's just like really racist, kind of like blue collared guy.
Archie Bunker?
Yeah, Archie Bunker. Yeah, but like in Joe, I mean,
Oh.
like he's like so that movie inspired it. So it's this really like racist blue collared guy who teams up with this rich guy. I forget how they meet. I think they meet in a bar or something, and they decide they're gonna kill hippies. And it's like a movie from, I think it was made like 1970.
70.
Yeah, like exactly.
Yeah, 1970.
And it's just so fucking good. And early role from Susan Sarandon is in it, playing the teenage daughter of the rich guy. She gets involved.
Oh, Susan Sarandon. Yeah. No, she's one of my favorite actresses. She was in this great movie called, Pretty Baby. Yeah, that was awesome.
Fuck you! I was about to say that, but I was like, no, he's probably trying to be serious and bring up a real movie. I was just about to say Pretty Baby. What do you guys think of Boyhood? I don't know why that came to mind when you were talking about directors trying to
Boyhood
like
in
ape
general?
someone else's
Growing
style,
up?
like trying to do something that doesn't work.
I don't care about that movie at all.
I really liked Boyhood. But I'm the exact same age as the main character. Like, I think I'm a month and a half older than him. So for me, it
Were
really...
you also boring? Were you also very boring and nothing happened in your life at all?
It's just like,
Well, I mean, but that's...
Was the most exciting thing in your life that you sat on the beach and looked at it?
No, but but that's also, I guess, kind of the point of the movie, is just to show, like, a lot of everyone's lives are pretty boring. I mean, especially when you think about just I don't know, like what you remember. Everything is, stories are what we tell ourselves. It's fiction. Memories.
I actually
Memories
like.
fiction.
I like a lot of Richard Linklater movies. I love.
Yeah.
Wait, guys! I don't know if you guys heard. Talking about Richard Linklater, the kid who played as Freddie Jones in School of Rock died last week.
I think I saw a post from Jack Black on that.
Yeah, so the kid who played as Freddie Jones in School of Rock, I mean, he's 32. He was
Just a
32.
42-year-old kid.
Yeah, the 32-year-old kid. Yeah, he was riding his bike and he got hit by a car.
Oh, that sucks.
Wow.
Yeah.
You died like a child, too. That's funny. I mean,
No.
Oh my god.
I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Fucking look up.
Hans,
There's
this
a bus coming.
is why you keep getting suspended from Twitter.
Oh, Jesus.
You can't say stuff like that.
He
Come
just
on.
died like a week ago or something, right?
Yeah, well,
Less than a week
should
ago.
have looked up. Should have pushed the brakes or something. I don't know. Go to the fucking sidewalk. If you were riding your bike on the sidewalk, that wouldn't have happened. I'm just saying. You're 40.
He wasn't 40. He was 32. He's probably young. He was probably younger than you.
He is. He was. Well, not anymore. He was. But yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've done some really stupid things, at your age, and
Oh, man.
I could.
Well, I'm alive. I'm alive.
He just doesn't stop. Oh, wow. Oh, that's crazy.
Wow. You know what? I think we're at the 2-hour 15-minute mark for me. I think now is a pretty good time to start just winding things down.
A good time to start disavowing
Just-
this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's what I'll say real quick. I think that a lot of people don't actually realize this because, I mean, we probably have a lot of younger listeners. The 12 people who are listening to the KinoKast, they're all probably like, 17. So they don't probably realize that there was no VHS in the 70s. There was no, it wasn't readily available to just like rent a movie and just like or get it somehow other than going to see it in theaters. So a lot of these movies in the 70s they would play for years in theaters. So something like Star Wars was probably in theaters for a year or probably even more than that. And yeah. So a lot of what happened in the 70s, from what I understand, is people watch something like Easy Rider, and well, it's not. I don't think that was made in the 70s, but it's when people watch something like Easy Rider, they were like, "This is the antithesis to what they see on TV," and movies started to get really edgy as a response to the fact that you can't see these kind of things on television, and people really ate that up.
Yeah, I just remember my dad telling me that like everyone in his school went to see Vanishing Point because they heard that you could see a girl's titties in it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a great movie, by the way. We should.
great.
Yeah, that's such a sick movie. And yeah, exactly. So there was this whole culture of like, you go to the drive-in and you watch these midnight movies, these double bills. And that's like it gave rise to like a lot of like exploitation films, and it's
Yeah, and you had really weird stuff. I mean, the 70s, like we haven't even touched on like the surrealist films of the 70s because you had Buñuel, you had Jodorowsky, David Lynch got his start in the 70s. I mean, you had.
This is one I actually wanted to mention one because I recently saw it and I really liked it. I don't know if you guys seen it. Alice, Sweet Alice.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. That was.
It's such a weird. It's such a weird. It's like I guess early slasher you can call it, but it has like a very unsettling tone to the whole thing until the end. I really really enjoyed it. It's from 76.
Yeah, it was like. So I watched it so long ago that I barely remember it, but it was kind of like when I watched it, I thought it kind of reminded me of like Orphan or like that. It's like just like like the child killer kind of thing. It was, but yeah, I enjoyed it. When I was looking at my list of movies that I have on IMDb, and I did see that I gave it a 6 out of 10, but I think I did enjoy it.
Well, I think it's similar to early movies of that time. I don't know. I'm not very familiar with Alfred Soleil or the
Yeah, I don't know
director.
him at
Seems
all.
like he's more of a production designer and director, but it has a very like Marvin feeling to it, like Marvin from
That's Martin.
Romero, where it's very like Martin, sorry, where it's very indie-ish, but very like small and condensed. And this one is it's very creepy. It's about a killer that wears like a weird girl mask and a yellow raincoat.
Why is he
and
dressing
everyone
like
thinks
me?
it's everyone thinks it's a little girl, the killer, but you know 70s things happen.
In our inability
and
to
it's
stay
great.
on the topic of New Hollywood, it kind of made me realize that there were so many factions of filmmaking that just exploded in the 1970s, where you do have, yes, a lot of the foreign directors as well, but also you have the Romeros, the Carpenters, Tobe Hooper, and that kin, in addition to New Hollywood.
Well, Black Christmas.
Right,
Christmas was
yeah,
74
that's
too.
Bob Clark,
that's
I
another
believe, who
early,
did
like, horror,
A Christmas Story.
Yeah, Bob Clark.
So, it's just an explosion and ushering in of all sorts of
Porky's.
cinema that was not the 1960s and 50s in traditional Hollywood by any extent.
And you want to know why cinema was so good?
Why?
Is because everything else in the 70s sucked. Everything else was terrible. You had the gas, gas lines and recessions. And I don't know, like, for some reason, usually when things are pretty bad, the movies do tend to get better than when they're
That's what I
pretty good.
heard. Like, especially, a lot of it was like a response to Nixon and people losing faith
Ford
in the American establishment and Vietnam. Stuff
Right,
like that.
right.
Yeah, the ongoing
So-
war in Vietnam.
So what you're saying is that human existence is amazing right now, and that's why we have so many shitty movies.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what
hold
I'm
on. We're only
I'm
a
waiting
couple of
for
months
that
into
to,
a
like,
Biden presidency. You got to give it the full 4 years before you make any judgments.
dude, I totally
Yeah.
forgot. I just forget that he's
Yeah,
like the
it doesn't
president.
feel like
I
there's
don't
a
even
president.
know
It
that.
feels
Everyone
like
does.
Pepsi's the president. It's just
He did too. I'm sure he forgot too.
so
yeah.
boring. Like, I miss Trump just because Trump was like kind of like funny, and like you just see his tweets like oh man, I loved his Twitter account, just like presidential harassment like every fucking day. I really missed like his shit posting. It was
Yeah, that's the thing, is now we're back to just boring neocon, neolib people, and politics is boring, everything is boring, everything is sucks,
But I mean,
in a boring
they
way.
they could do it fun if they genuinely covered him for real, because he's an old man that I'm sure wears a diaper and doesn't even know where he's standing. So if they covered him truthfully, it would be hilarious. But the problem is that they just cover him for him, so it's just boring because we only hear
they
about
couldn't even.
the
I would
boring
just love.
things.
I
yeah.
would just
Go ahead. I was just going to
You
say, they
go
couldn't even
first.
confirm that there was someone in the passenger seat with like a driver's ed wheel ready to go for that one shot of him.
Yeah.
Look, I think Joe Biden's a very funny president, and I completely agree. If they gave some direct coverage, some honest coverage, I think he would be an extremely memorable president, but I don't think that's what we're in for, unfortunately.
Yeah, here's what I was gonna say. I really want a photo of Joe Biden in like an adult diaper, just so that I could Photoshop him into furry conventions with other crinklers.
Dude, just look at that photo spread that came out. What was the magazine? Where he's like cool with next to a Cadillac with sunglasses at the beach, and he's wearing jeans, and he looks like he's wearing a diaper. Like he has like a diaper look on his jeans. Just get any of those images. He looks like an old person wearing a diaper. And the thing is, like, if people took politics for what it is, which is just funny, because they are fucking everyone over, fine, but it's not like covering them in a different way is going to change anything. So at least have fun with it and just take it as,
It's just
we have
theater.
a demented man. We have a demented man that probably shits himself and doesn't know where he's standing. Isn't that funny, guys? Like, I would prefer that coverage than, oh, this is the smartest person in the world and he's our leader, when no one believes that
well,
shit,
look here, Hans. I was in a fight with a switchblade, and there was a chain gang, and the kids they touched my hairy legs, and what
And his corn
what was I
pop.
saying?
Didn't he just? Didn't something come out of him just saying like, "Look at this 6-year-old with those legs, looking like a 19-year-old or some shit"? And it's just
Yeah, he's the Paul Schrader of
just
our
let him
presidents,
talk.
you know?
Yeah, listen here, Pat.
Listen here, Matt.
Yeah.
Matt. I can do more push-ups than you.
Yeah.
More
Dude,
push-ups. I wear a
Okie-
mask. What?
Oki, you should have been like Joe Biden in the Nicholas Diorio debate. Listen here, Pat.
I should have done that, man. Oh, dude.
All right, guys. So I think we're at our limit now. This is getting pretty long, and now we're getting completely way off topic. I don't know. I mean, this happens a lot, right? We go in saying we're going to talk about one topic, and it's like jazz. It's
It's freeform.
We just kind of.
What do you think Joe
we just-
Biden? Do you think Joe Biden likes the 70s tours?
I think Joe Biden's favorite TV show is Burn Notice.
No,
Just
no,
like
no,
me.
no. I think his favorite TV show is Happy Days because
Oh.
it's so obvious that he wants to be the Fonz.
Sunglasses, ice cream
it's-
cone.
that's- I mean, with the-
it feels on point.
He wants to be the Fonz.
Leather jacket.
Leather jacket, yeah. He wants to be the Fonz, man.
You hit the what's the machine called?
The jukebox.
Music
You were
machine?
alive
The
back
jukebox.
then. Come on.
The jukebox.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean about not sticking with the topic. We did a 2-part special on Mortal Kombat 2021. I think we maybe talked about it for about 6 minutes. And it's just like a 3-hour episode.
Well, I mean, Johnny Cage isn't even in it, so you might like.
There was
there's
more
no
talking
point
about
in
Mortal
talking
Kombat
about
on this podcast than our Mortal Kombat podcast.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, guys, I'm just gonna end this right here. I'm gonna do. It's an executive decision to come in and end it. Now Hans and Lowres are coming out with the movie, and you just finished raising. What was it, $7,000?
We got $6,000 in the campaign, and then we got an additional $1,000 after the campaign of people being like, "Oh, I meant to, donate to this. Can we get like a Cash App or Venmo or whatever?" So it's been it definitely overperformed. I know we had like 10K as the goal, but that really wasn't the goal. That was just a marker to have. So really surprised that we were able to get so much from people interested in the movie, and it's going to go to some expensive stuff. It's going to be very cool, and we're going to be able to fly Hans back in to the United States and give him a nice room, not a studio apartment with 3 men like last time.
Yeah,
Also,
the only bad part.
sorry.
The only bad part about that is that when we shot this movie, it was before pandemic. So now I'm fat as shit. So now I have like 5 months to lose all the weight that I've gained in the pandemic.
Well, no,
because I'm
here's what's going to
actually
happen. Is
going back up, so
$2,000
it's,
is going to go to
kinda sucks,
a
right?
gym I'm going to build on set. I'm going to take after beloved Zack.
yeah.
Also,
Look,
you
that's
guys
what every
got
good director does.
you guys got like an extremely generous donation from Justin Wang, who seems like, I think Justin Wang is like the nicest person online. Like,
Justin Wang is a friend of the KinoKast. Wait, I'm gonna say that again. Justin Wang is a friend of the KinoKast, and he will be appearing on the KinoKast later. in
Nice,
June.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, Justin is like that friend that's your friend but doesn't want anyone to know that you're their friend. So he's like, yeah, I'll help you in silence. No one would know, but
He's
my
great.
help.
I mean, I probably wouldn't even have cracked like 500 followers on Twitter if it wasn't from like random 3 a.m. retweets from Justin Wang. So
yeah, say
Yeah, that's all of us.
he's wonderful.
Yeah, I think, yeah, he's wonderful. Well, guys, when can we see Mass State Lottery? You guys are going into reshoots for it, so is it
It's probably gonna be
2022?
2022. We're gonna hopefully hit the festivals in early 2022, and then we'll figure out something from there. We'll see if we can either land a distributor. If not, the people who at least contributed to the the PayPal fund who gave $20 will get a screener. So it'll probably be up on like 1, 2, 3 movies or something by November. I don't know. We'll find out.
All right. Well, hey, Lowres, Hans, thank you for coming on. Oki, again, always thank you for co-hosting, and we will see you all in the next episode.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thanks, guys.